Welcome to the fantasy audiobook, Pokémon, the legendary trainer who farms at home. Chapter 21. Brother Chen Shi, what is the world outside like? It's almost the same as here, except there's the sun during the day and the moon at night. Oh, Brother Chen Shi, what does the sun and the moon look like? You'll know when you go out and see for yourself. Then Brother Chen Shi, is it really as dangerous outside as Grandpa and Grandma say? Yes, it's a world of cannibalism. Ah, Farong was shocked, the world outside actually eats people. Why not eat food? Chen Shi's mouth twitched, and he felt a headache. After leaving the old man, the little girl kept chattering. What else could he do? He could only answer her questions while hurrying on his way. Brother Chen Shi, are people outside as powerful as you? Also, what kind of Pokémon was that green and yellow Pokémon you had before? I feel like it's a ghost-type Pokémon, but I haven't seen it before. Quote. Chen Shi replied nonchalantly. Everyone outside is stronger than me, you better be careful. That Pokémon is called Duolongchi, it is a dragon and ghost type. Wow, Farong's eyes suddenly burst into little stars. A dragon and ghost Pokémon, so powerful. I've decided, I will also capture a Duolongchi after I go out. Farong clenched her fist and waved it in the air. The night sorcerer had told her before that the Pokémon was very strong, but she didn't expect it to be a dragon and ghost Pokémon. For Farong, who has loved all kinds of ghost Pokémon since she was a child, this is simply full of attraction. Then, she pulled Chen Shi's hand and shook it. Brother Chen Shi, can you let me see Duolongchi again? Chen Shi held his forehead and said helplessly, Farong, why don't we go home first? I'll show you slowly when I get home, okay. Quote. In just this short while, he had already regretted it to some extent. He could only hope to go home quickly, and then leave this little girl to his grandparents, so that they would have a headache. No, I just want to see. Farong refused, pulling his hand and shaking it wildly. Chen Shi pondered for a moment, with an ambiguous smile on his face. Farong, today I will teach you one thing. Don't trust anyone casually outside, otherwise, you will suffer a great loss. Just like this. Zhengui. Quote. Hehehehe. Koji. Zhengui suddenly emerged from Chen Shi's shadow and hypnotized Farong in front of her incredible eyes. Zhengui has been with him for more than 10 years. Although it is his grandmother's Pokémon, it has a tacit understanding with Chen Shi and naturally understands what he means. And it is also a little annoyed by this little girl, who keeps nagging all the way. The noise is giving ghosts a headache. Farong's night demon appeared and caught Farong, who was about to fall, and then looked at Chen Shi in confusion. The latter explained, don't worry, just let her be quiet for a while. You hold her and come with me. Quote. The night demon was a little hesitant, but thinking that this was someone the two old men trusted, there should be no problem. Then it carried Farong and followed Chen Shi all the way down the mountain. In the evening, Chen Shi returned home, followed by a night demon, holding Farong in its arms. That's right, she hasn't woken up yet, and I don't know how hard Gengar tried. She hasn't woken up after flying on the back of the Tyrannosaurus for so long. But it's good, it's quiet now, isn't it? But when he entered the door, Grandpa Chen pointed at Farong and asked in confusion. Is this the granddaughter of my old friend? What's going on? Why is she being carried back? Did she encounter any accidents on the road? Chen Shi was a little embarrassed, and then said seriously, this girl said she was sleepy on the way here, so I let her sleep. I didn't expect she hasn't woken up yet. She can sleep well, haha. Quote. Night Demon looked at Chen Shi in disbelief. Didn't you let Gengar hypnotize her? How did she fall asleep on her own? Night Demon, who was as innocent as Farong, had never seen such a shameless person. For a moment, he was stunned. Grandpa Chen's eyes twitched slightly when he heard his grandson's explanation, and he said unhappily, do you think I'm stupid? Put her down quickly, what kind of talk is this? Chen Shi hurriedly called Night Demon, put Farong on the sofa, and covered her with a small blanket. Then he sat in front of his grandparents embarrassedly. How is it? Did you see my old friend? Is he in good health? Chen Shi immediately replied. It looks good, the two old seniors are fine. Quote. But this little girl has a problem. Chen Shi pointed at Farong on the sofa. She has never been out, and has always lived in that little world. She is a little too naive. The two old seniors mean to let her stay here for a while. Then you two old men will teach her some principles, and then let her go out to see the world and suffer a little loss. Grandpa Chen nodded slowly. I understand. I will clean up a room on the second floor for her to stay in later. Grandma Chen said with some sigh. It seems that the two old guys have also learned a lesson. Now they can say such words as letting his granddaughter suffer a little loss. Chen Shi didn't understand, but didn't ask. From what Grandpa Farong hadn't finished saying before, it was obvious that his son was in trouble. There is no need to dig into this kind of thing, just know it. Grandpa Chen smiled bitterly. We shouldn't let the eldest laugh at the second. It's the same. Grandma Chen's eyes were dim. The death of her son and daughter-in-law was a lifelong pain for her. Chen Shi stopped talking immediately. Chen Shi had never asked about his parents. Because he knew that the two old people were not feeling well, he had always been sensible and never mentioned it. Afterwards, Chen Shi changed the subject. Grandpa and Grandma, why is there such a strange world inside the Sending God volcano? What exactly is that place? Grandpa Chen came out of his memories and heard his grandson's question, and replied, it's a small secret realm. You have been in there, too, you should be able to see where it is very similar to the real world. That's a small secret realm. As for how this secret realm was formed, no one knows, but we know that it has existed since ancient times. New secret realms are still being discovered, and most of them are controlled by the Alliance. At this point, Grandpa Chen paused and continued. Most secret realms are rich in resources and energy, and there may be various rare Pokémon living in them. The one you went to is called the Ghost Secret Realm by my old friend. You can tell from the name that the ghost energy in it is quite rich, and it is a paradise for ghost Pokémon. The Zifuchi family also controls a steel secret realm, which contains various mineral veins, and there are also Metagross tribes and Boscadora tribes living in it. After hearing his grandfather's explanation, Chen Shi finally understood what was going on. It turns out that there are such magical places in the world, and he didn't know it before. It seems that we can't use all the memories of our previous lives to look at this world. While the three of them were chatting, Farong slowly opened her eyes on the sofa. Looking at the unfamiliar ceiling and dazzling lights in front of her, she gradually remembered the scene before she fell asleep. Grandpa and Grandma asked her to follow brother Chen Shi out, but she didn't expect the latter to be unethical and hypnotize her directly. Farong's face turned red with anger, and she jumped up from the sofa and looked around fiercely. When she saw Chen Shi sitting in front of the two old people chatting, Farong rushed over aggressively. You, Chen Shi interrupted the spell directly. Well, what's wrong with me? Well, you fell asleep. You can sleep well. Farong gritted her teeth in anger. It was you who asked Zhang Gui to hypnotize me, and you blamed me for being able to sleep. Chen Shi sighed and said earnestly, I'm doing this for your own good. Let you know that you shouldn't trust people too much outside. Look, you've suffered a lot. If I had bad intentions, you wouldn't know which mine you're digging in now. Farong was stunned by what she said and scratched her head in confusion. Her dark little face was full of entanglement. On one hand, she felt that he was talking nonsense, and on the other hand, she felt that what he said made sense. Grandma Chen on the side couldn't stand it anymore and waved to Farong with a smile. Your name is Farong, right? Don't listen to that brat's nonsense, he's fooling you. Come sit here with Grandma. Farong realized that the two old people in front of her should be friends of her grandparents. I heard that they are two great breeders. She bowed quickly. Hello, Grandpa Chen and Grandma Chen, my name is Farong. Looking at the nervous little girl in front of them, the two elders of the Chen family liked her very much. Grandma Chen stood up and pulled her to sit down. You, stay here for the time being. I have asked Gardevoir to prepare a room for you on the second floor. You can go and see if there is anything missing later. If you need anything, just tell me, don't be polite. Grandpa Chen also said gently, Girl, I have been friends with your grandpa and grandma for decades. Just treat this as your own home. Farong's nervous expression relaxed slightly. Thank you, Grandpa Chen and Grandma Chen. This girl has never been out of the ghost secret realm. It is normal for her to be uncomfortable when she just came out and faced two elders of the same generation as her grandfather. So Grandma Chen asked Chen Shi to take her to the room upstairs to have a look. It will probably be much better after getting familiar with it. Upstairs, Farong looked at the luxurious room in front of her, and her eyes suddenly sparkled. As soon as she walked in, she stepped on a newly laid carpet, and all kinds of furniture were available, with a huge bed in the middle. The quilt, pillow, and mattress on it were all newly replaced, and there was a faint floral scent in the room. Farong used to live in a cabin and sleep on a small wooden board, so she had never seen such a scene. Is this really for me to live in? Chen Shi looked at her strangely. Of course it's for you to live in. You can stay as long as you want, and this room will be left for you in the future. By the way, I'll live across from you, and call me if you have anything. I'm leaving first. Farong uttered an ah, and continued to look around the room. Chen Shi didn't care about her, and turned back to his room. But as soon as he entered the door, he found a Togepi lying on the bed and snoring. There was also a shining iron dumbbell sleeping in the nest that Chen Shi had made for him. Chen Shi didn't take it seriously, and walked over to wake up Togepi. Togepi rubbed his hazy little eyes, and then saw his trainer coming back. Chajadui. The little guy's eyes turned red, and he immediately threw himself into Chen Shi's arms, tears streaming down. Chajadu, yi. This made Chen Shi feel so distressed, and he quickly asked in a gentle voice. What's wrong? Who made our Togepi angry? Chajadui. Togepi got angry when he heard it, and jumped down and pointed at Chen Shi with his little hand. All afternoon today, Togepi couldn't find his training family, nor his little friend Yibi. When asked by Mrs. Waji, she also said that she didn't know where the trainer had gone. When asked by Grandpa and Grandma, people couldn't understand what it said, and thought it was acting cute. This made the little guy very anxious. The two important friends were gone, and Pokey felt like the sky had fallen. Finally, the little guy returned to the room disappointed, hoping that the trainer would come back soon. During this period, Pokey kept thinking about whether he was too naughty and the trainer was too naughty. My family doesn't want me anymore. Today, Gardevoir said that the trainer got a Pokémon egg. Did the trainer get a new Pokémon and then leave me behind? The little guy felt more and more wronged, and finally he could only shrink into the eggshell and cry silently. Because there was a flying iron claw in the room, the little guy was afraid that it would see him crying and laugh at him. In the end, I didn't know what happened, but I suddenly fell asleep. When I woke up, I saw the trainer coming back. Pokemon's nose was sour, and he couldn't bear the grievance in his heart anymore. Chen Shi explained with a smile. I just went out for half a day to do something. Aren't you back now? Chajadui. Okay, I will take you with me next time I go out, I promise. Chajadui. Where do I get a new Togepi? I said I could give it away, and I've already given it away. Chajadui. Of course it's true, Chen Shi said in a gentle voice. It's good enough for me to have a Togepi like you, and I won't look for other Togepi. Hearing this, the little guy burst into laughter, but felt embarrassed again. With a red face, he threw himself into Chen Shi's arms and buried his face. Chen Shi patted his head gently. Don't daydream all day. I said, I will never leave you until the end of my life. Togepi was stunned, and in a trance he saw the scene of the first time he met the trainer. He gave himself an Eevee food that they had never eaten before, and carefully helped him clean the stains on his body. He asked himself and Eevee if they were willing to go with him. The boy's words were still vivid in my mind. Pokebee and Eevee, are you willing to leave this dark cave with me? The world outside is huge, and this is just a tiny corner of this world. Are you willing to go out with me to see the vast world outside? We accompany each other and rely on each other. Until the end of life. Pokebee was immersed in the beauty described by the boy. At this time, it put down its usual caution and nodded. Pokebee looked up and met Chen Shi's gentle eyes. Suddenly, it laughed. Chajadui. We accompany each other and rely on each other. Until the end of life. Pokebee rubbed against Chen Shi's arms, and it finally put down the last trace of worry in its heart. The most dazzling and incredible light in the Pokemon world emanated from it. Chen Shi was instantly ecstatic, and quickly opened the drawer to take out a potion box, and handed the sky blue potion inside to Togepi. Quick, drink this. Togepi immediately took a sip and swallowed it, and then the light on its body became more dazzling. Chen Shi, an iron dumbbell, who had woken up a long time ago but didn't speak, watched this scene in a trance. In the haze, Togepi's figure gradually changed, his eggshell disappeared, and a pair of wings grew behind him. The neck was stretched a little, and the color of the body changed from bright yellow to white. The light of evolution slowly dissipated, and a brand new Pokémon appeared in front of Chen Shi. Congratulations, Pokémon. Shake, Pokémon. Pokémon. Level 37, Late Advanced. Qualification: Semi-Champion. Feature: Tianan. Gender: Female. Skills: Call, Slap, Yawn, Finger Swing, Primal Power, Life Drop, Act Like a Baby, Treasure, Meditation, Round Eyes, Air Slash, Swallow Return, High-Speed Star. Chen Shi was surprised to see the data in front of him. His qualification reached Semi-Champion. As long as its potential as Pokémon is fully tapped, it can use the top Lightstone to evolve into Pokus. By then, its potential will definitely reach the champion level. Moreover, it has learned several new skills, including the Fairy-type Round Eyes, and the most important Air Slash for Pokus. The future is promising. Choco. Pokémon happily looked at its new body, and then flew around Chen Shi. Beta. At this time, Iron Dumbbell also flew over to congratulate Pokémon. Pokémon accepted it happily and showed his new body after evolution to his new companion. Chen Shi looked at the Iron Dumbbell and found that the child had upgraded another level. Now he was level 18. He could evolve after 2 more levels. Today is really my lucky day. First I got Giratina's reverse scale, then Pokémon's evolution, and the upgrade of the Iron Dumbbell. Chen Shi couldn't help but hum good luck. Speaking of reverse scale, Chen Shi took out the black little box again. I don't know what material this box is made of. It feels like wood, but it is very hard. And this box should also have the function of isolating breath. Before, Chen Shi felt it as soon as he opened the Dragonite, and then there was no movement as soon as he closed the Dragonite. It can be seen that as long as the box is not opened, Dragon and Ghost Pokémon can't feel the breath of reverse scale. After taking a look, Chen Shi put it close to his body. This thing is too important. He dare not put it randomly. If he loses it, Chen Shi will cry to death. In the evening, Grandma Chen prepared a large table of dishes to welcome Farong. Farong was very happy. After thanking her, she complained about Chen Shi. She told everything that happened after she met Chen Shi, which made the 2 old people laugh. Afterwards, Grandpa Chen asked Farong what her plans were for the future. Farong was stunned and a little confused. Grandpa and Grandma just told her to follow Chen Shi out, but didn't say what they wanted her to do. She could only answer truthfully that she didn't know. Grandpa Chen said earnestly, "Girl, this world is not as beautiful as you think. In this world, only this is the only truth." As he said, Grandpa Chen clenched his fist. Farong didn't understand and asked cautiously, "Is it a hand?" Chen Shi slapped his forehead and explained unhappily, "It's a fist. It's strength. Only if your fist is big will others listen to you, and only if you have strong strength can you protect everything you have." Farong nodded thoughtfully and whispered, "But I don't seem to have anything. I don't even have shoes." As she said that, Farong stretched out her bare feet to show the 3 people. At the dinner table, the atmosphere suddenly fell into dead silence. Farong's words confused the 2 old men. They thought this girl would be very simple, but they didn't expect her to be so simple. Chen Shi was even more angry and pointed at the ghost Pokémon that were eating deliciously on another table. "With these Pokémon of yours, believe it or not, if you take them out, a large group of people will fight for them. If you don't have some strength, can you protect them?" Farong seemed to be frightened, and asked weakly, "But don't others have partners? Why do you want to rob Xiaoling and others?" Chen Shi was speechless. This guy is the future Ghost-type king. Little White Rabbit King is almost the same. Then he said earnestly, "The potential of these Pokémon of yours is terrifyingly high. As long as others take away and tame them, they will at least be a team of kings in the future. Why don't others rob them?" Farong was still a little unconvinced. She didn't want to think too badly of others. "But others don't know, what is the potential of my partners?" Chen Shi was completely speechless. The size and other aspects of these ghost-type Pokémon are obviously far superior to their peers. Even a fool can see that these Pokémon have extraordinary potential. Finally, Chen Shi sighed helplessly, you will understand later. Remember what I said, be careful when you go out, be careful. Farong nodded solemnly, I understand, if you are not careful, you will be hypnotized. Chen Shi put on the mask of pain directly, my god. Xiao Daola is really open-minded. Chen Shi made up his mind that he must let this little girl suffer a little. Master Chen Grandpa had no choice but to change the subject. There will be a competition in 3 months. You two can go and participate together. Farong became interested. Grandpa Chen, what kind of competition is it? It is led by the Kanto Alliance and invites talents under the age of 20 from various regions to participate. It seems to be called the World Championship. The purpose is to train the next generation of the Alliance. I heard that the Alliance is bleeding a lot this time, and the rewards are very rich. You two can also join in the fun when the time comes. Chen was shocked. Inviting talents under the age of 20 from various regions. That's incredible. Now the future champions of each region are basically under this age. For example, Daigo and Mikali. The Alliance's move this time is indeed not small. It seems that they have realized that the Alliance has a big problem. For example, the current 4 kings of the Hoenn Alliance, 2 of them are too old. Mura is always shouting that he wants to abdicate. Of course, there is also a Dragon King Genji. This old man is getting more and more evil as he gets older, so I won't mention him. The Kanto Alliance is similar. Only Shiba is young among the 4 kings. The other 3 are Kikuko, Lu Bo, and the host of the Round Bead Tower. Although Chen Shi knew that the first 2 were not simple, from the surface, it seemed that there was a lack of successors. Chen Shi asked curiously, what does the Alliance plan to give out as rewards this time? Upon hearing about rewards, Farong's eyes lit up. Rewards are my favorite. Grandpa Chen shook his head slowly, I don't know yet. The Alliance has done a good job of keeping secrets. But I think the prizes for such a large event must be extraordinary. Chen Shi felt that it made sense. If the prizes for such a large event were shabby, would the Alliance still have any shame? For the corrupt Alliance, nothing is more important than face. Chen Shi couldn't help but look forward to it. Geniuses under the age of 20 in the entire Alliance, just thinking about it makes me excited. In the Sinnoh region, Shanhe Town. In a villa, a blonde beauty was awakened by the doorbell. Who is it, so early in the morning? She gently lifted the quilt and stood up. The morning sun shone through the gap in the curtains and sprinkled on her, outlining her graceful figure. After that, she simply changed her clothes and went downstairs. After opening the door, a middle-aged man asked, "Excuse me, are you Miss Shirona?" "Yes, I am Shirona, what can I do for you?" Hearing this, the middle-aged man took out a box from the space backpack. "It's like this, here is an expedited package for you, sent from the Hoenn region, please sign for it." Hoenn, a hint of surprise flashed in Shirona's eyes. She took the acceptance form handed over by the middle-aged man, signed her name and returned it to him. After the middle-aged man left, Shirona tried to move the box, but it was a bit difficult. Helplessly, she could only shout, "Land Shark, Land Shark." Luca. Land Shark didn't shout, but a handsome Lucario jumped down from the 2nd floor. "Lucario, you're just in time, help me move this box." Lucario walked forward and easily picked up the box. "Luca, move it to my room." Shirona thought for a moment and replied, "My grandma happened to be staying here today, so it's better not to let her know. Otherwise, my grandma will look so frivolous again." Unfortunately, the more Shirona fears something, the more it will happen. Dr. Mustard suddenly came down from the 2nd floor and asked curiously, "Nana, who is ringing the doorbell so early in the morning? What is Lucario holding?" Hyrna's heart tightened, but she said, "Nothing, just the things I bought have arrived." "Lucario, why are you still standing there? Help me take it upstairs." Dr. Mustard Orchid narrowed her eyes, something was wrong, very wrong. This girl must be wrong today, there must be something wrong with that box. She stopped Lucario who wanted to go upstairs. "Nana, what did you buy? Let Grandma see it too." "Grandma, I'm particularly interested in the things you young people like recently." Hyrna remained calm, "They are just some small things. If Grandma likes it, I'll buy you one. Lucario, take it upstairs." "Stop." Mustard Orchid was finally sure that this box was definitely not ordinary. There was something wrong. Lucario was speechless, whether to go upstairs or not. Lucario simply put the box on the ground and stepped aside. Upstairs, there were also 3 Pokémon watching the fun. They were Garchomp, Melodic and Glaceon. Colonel walked to the box and looked at it carefully, but didn't find anything strange. Nana, what's in this box? Why don't you open it and let Grandma see it? Hyrna's cheeks were slightly red, but she said, if Grandma wants to see it, then open it and take a look. Hyrna thought Colonel would refuse, but she didn't expect the latter to agree directly. Okay. Colonel opened the box expectantly. There was an incubator inside, and inside was a Pokémon egg with a red and blue triangle pattern, and there were 2 boxes next to it. Colonel thought for a while, this seems to be Togepi's Pokémon egg. Togepi. Hyrna was a little surprised, she also liked Pokémon like Togepi. I didn't expect him to give me one. Then, Mustard Orchid opened the 2 boxes next to her. One contained a top-grade Lightstone, and the other contained a tube of sky blue potion. When she saw the potion, Mustard Orchid also understood who sent the box. Only the old man in Fungyuan could make a potion of this color. Mustard Orchid looked at her granddaughter teasingly, Nana, is this the little thing you mentioned? Not to mention the elf egg, just the top-grade Lightstone and potion, they are things you can't buy outside. Remember to buy more of these little things for Grandma, I like them very much. Shirona's cheeks had turned red, but she was still stubborn. Okay, if Grandma likes it, I'll buy it for you. Mustard Orchid laughed out loud, and then took out a letter. Oh Nana, what is this? When she saw the letter, Shirona lost her composure and rushed over to grab it back. Then she ran back to her room as if escaping. The 3 elves who were watching the excitement upstairs quickly dispersed to avoid getting into trouble. The victorious Mustard Orchid was light snorted, you little brat, you still want to fight me. Lucario, help her put the things away and take them upstairs. Lucario agreed, put the things back into the box and carried them upstairs. In the room, Shirona buried her head in the quilt. She sat up as if nothing had happened until Lucario came in. Lucario was also a smart dog, he put the things down and left. Shirona sighed, took out the envelope and opened it. Miss Shirona, I'm glad to see you. I have returned to the Hoenn region safely, so don't worry about me. I'm sorry that I wrote to you just now, but I just got home and I have a lot of things to do. And I also want to prepare a satisfactory gift for you, which is the little guy in the incubator. Looking at the pattern on the eggshell, you should be able to guess what Pokémon it is. I have studied the conditions required for Togepi to evolve into Togeco. This is a new evolution method I discovered, called intimacy evolution. You can guess from the name that Togepi needs to reach a certain intimacy with the trainer before it can evolve into Togeco. When your Lucario evolved before, I have some guesses. Because it is also a Pokémon that evolves by intimacy. Maybe it is hard for you to believe, but it is true. The little girl in the egg has very good talents, you have to cultivate her well. When evolving, give her the blue potion, which can increase her potential. And the light stone, it is also for Togepi. Because I found that there is another evolutionary type on Togekigu, I call it Togeplane. Of course, this is a joke, I call it Togekiss, a very powerful Pokémon. It is the evolution of Togekigu using the light stone. As for the cultivation method, I can't give you too much advice, because my Togepi hasn't evolved yet. I can only say that during the Togepi period, you should focus on training your physical strength, and then accompany it more and brush up the intimacy. You should pay attention during the Togekigu period, and you must focus on training the skill of Air Slash. This is the core skill of Togekigu and later Togeplane. Don't underestimate this skill, because this skill will have a miraculous effect if it is used by Togeplane. Of course, if it's just like this, it's not worth it for me to remind you to pay more attention to this little guy. I can reveal a little information to you, but please don't tell anyone else. Togepi is not an ordinary Pokémon, it is the best Pokémon in the world. New, the 18th attribute. And this attribute is very special, you must cultivate it well. In the future, this little guy will become your absolute main force. By the way, let me share my joy with you. Little Duolong has evolved into Duolongchi, and I have also conquered a new partner. It is a different colored iron dumbbell. Well, that's all. If you have time, you can come to my farm. Remember to say hello to Grandma Mustard Orchid on my behalf. I wish you happiness every day. Your friend, Chen Shi. Shirona put down the letter in her hand, and her slender little hand gently stroked the incubator, and the shadow of the boy flashed in her eyes. Poochie. Quote. Suddenly, she couldn't help laughing out loud. Outside, Garchomp, who was eavesdropping on the door, immediately became excited. Land shark, land shark. She laughed, I'll say it. The ice Eevee below rolled his eyes. Bue, do I need you to say this? Minnow, that's right. The top melodic also echoed. Luca, you guys are still eavesdropping, how shameless. Behind, Lucario folded his hands, looking at the three Pokémon with contempt. Garchomp sneered, exhaling 2 streams of white air from his nose. Garcho, you better turn off the waveguide before talking. Just then, the door suddenly opened. Shirona looked at the scene in front of her, and she didn't understand what was going on. Garchomp scratched his head. Garcho, the weather is good today. Bui, that's right. Then, the 4 Pokémon fled away. In the Hoenn region, Chen's farm, Chen Shi and Farong took 2 chairs and basked in the sun comfortably. This is what life is all about. Brother Chen Shi, is that the sun in the sky. The light it emits is so comfortable and warm. Chen Shi glanced at her and said, why are you following me instead of training your own Pokémon? Oh, they can train themselves. My grandparents have customized training plans for them. Okay, Chen Shi sighed helplessly and ignored her. I have nothing to do recently, and I should prepare for my next paper. But Chen Shi has not decided which Pokémon to publish. Grandpa has the King's Certificate and Sharp Claws. You can choose Slowpokemon to use the King's Certificate to evolve into Slowpokemon. You can also find Mosquito King and use the King's Certificate to evolve into Mosquito King. As for Sharp Claws, there is only one choice for Neura. Of course, you can also find Scyther and Onyx, and use the Metal Film to evolve into Steelix. Metal Film is also easy to find, you can buy it at the department store in Zijin City. It's just that the quality is not very good. After thinking for a long time, Chen Shi decided to publish the evolution paper of Onyx this time. Because this guy is more popular, they are everywhere, and he can be caught in the Kalu Tunnel in Green Shade Town. Thinking of this, Chen Shi patted Farong beside him. I'll give you a task. Farong immediately became interested and asked excitedly, what task? Go to the Kalu Tunnel and help me catch a high-level Onyx. Don't look at potential or anything else, as long as it's high level. Anyway, your Pokémon are all ghost type, so it's easy to find. Farong was a little confused. Brother Chen Shi, are you planning to train Onyx? Although Farong was not familiar with the world, she was quite knowledgeable about all kinds of Pokémon knowledge, and knew about Onyx. No, just help me catch one, I'll be useful. Farong immediately lost interest. I won't go, I want to bask in the sun. She was not stupid, how could she run errands for Chen Shi for free? She might as well bask in the sun. 100,000 alliance coins. Farong hesitated, she had a simple understanding of the outside world last night. She knew that money was indispensable in all aspects of life outside. 100,000 alliance coins is already a lot, and it can buy a lot of things. But it is so comfortable to bask in the sun, she doesn't even want to move. 200,000. Farong immediately stood up. Brother Chen Shi, just wait and see, I promise to catch Onyx for you. After that, the girl ran to the villa in a hurry. Probably to find her own Pokémon. Chen Shi snorted, little guy, can't I catch you? Then, he turned his eyes to the garden not far away. Madame Wajia was taking care of her flowers tirelessly. Chen Shi walked over and glanced at her panel, and found that there were no new skills. Madame Wajia, how many times can you use the charming voice now? Wah, wah. Madame Wajia didn't even turn her head, but still answered the trainer's question. Chen Shi touched his chin thoughtfully, but it could only be used once. But after using it, the fairy energy in the body will not be consumed, but the second charming voice cannot be used. That means that the fairy energy reserves in Madame Wajia are increasing. It is estimated that she will learn more and more skills in the future. Then remember to tell me if you learn new skills in the future, okay? Wah. Madame Wajia still did not look back, but waved her hand to indicate that she understood. Chen Shi did not bother her anymore and turned back to go home to prepare for writing a paper. This thing is so troublesome. Every word, even every punctuation mark, must be carefully thought out. As soon as I entered the house, my grandparents were still sitting on the sofa as usual, drinking tea and resting. Chen Shi said hello and prepared to go upstairs. Grandpa Chen called him at this time. Just now Farong ran out in a hurry, saying that you taught at a task. What did you ask her to do? Nothing. Chen Shi waved his hand, just asked her to catch Onyx in the Kalu tunnel. Onyx? Grandpa Chen asked puzzledly. What do you want Onyx for? To shoot a video. By the way, Grandpa, do you have a Pokémon transporter at home? Grandpa Chen was completely confused. Catch Onyx just to shoot a video. However, after hearing his grandson's question, after that, he still answered, yes, it's in my laboratory. Do you want to use it? Chen Shi said. Well, I will use it to transport Onyx later. By the way, Grandpa, do you have a metal film at home? A general quality one will do. Grandpa Chen couldn't help it and asked, what are you going to do? Strange. Chen Shi smiled. I found a way for Onyx to evolve into Steelix. Onyx can evolve into Steelix after communication after wearing a metal film. Grandpa Chen was stunned. He didn't expect his grandson to give such an answer. Grandma Chen, who was resting on the sofa, also opened her eyes. Xiao Xiao, do you want to be a researcher? Chen Shi waved his hand. Hey, it's just a side job, just do some research. The two old people's eyes twitched slightly. You call this research? You can find the evolution method of Onyx by just doing some research. Onyx has always been a problem that has troubled many researchers. Steelix has also been found in the wild, and everyone agrees that there must be some connection between Onyx and Steelix, but it has not been confirmed. Unexpectedly, the grandson said today that he found it by just doing some research, which made the two old people not know what to say. Grandma Chen said earnestly, Xiao Xiao, we don't care if you have some hobbies. But you have to distinguish the primary from the secondary. Whether you want to choose the path of a trainer or the path of a breeder, I won't say anything. Because we can give you the greatest support in both aspects. But the path of a researcher is not good, this path is not easy to walk. Chen Shi walked over and sat next to his grandmother. Grandma, don't worry, I'm just doing some research, it won't interfere with the main business. I discovered Leafeon and Glaceon some time ago. I'm a junior researcher now, don't worry. Grandpa Chen looked at his grandson in shock. You are the one with the severe choice difficulty. Yes, didn't I tell you? Listening to their grandson's Versailles speech, the two old people were speechless for a while. Afterwards, Grandma Chen seemed to have come to her senses, and she couldn't stop him anyway. It's already like this, so she can only let him do what he wants. Grandpa Chen's ability to accept is much better than Grandma Chen's. Because he understands that some geniuses are just so unreasonable. Then tell Grandpa, what else have you researched? There is also super evolution. Didn't I show you? Grandpa Chen was stunned. It seems to be like this. Super evolution was indeed made by his grandson, but this thing is too important, and it must not be told to anyone now. Anything else? Chen Shi scratched his head, still thinking that he should not hide it from Grandpa and Grandma. There is also a brand new attribute. Oh, just a brand new attribute. Grandpa Chen nodded. Then he stood up suddenly, and his voice suddenly increased by 10 degrees. What did you say? Chen Shi hurried forward to support him. Oh my god. Don't get excited, what if it bumps into something? Grandma Chen's hands were shaking, her eyes full of disbelief. Little boy, this is not allowed to be nonsense. This is a big deal, you really didn't lie to Grandma. Chen Shi was unhappy. What you said, I would not lie to anyone but you. Besides, you can tell from my name that I am an honest person. Grandpa Chen ignored his grandson's jokes, grabbed his hands tightly, and asked, how did you find out? Is there anything that can prove it? Yes, Chen Shi replied. Pokémon and Madame Waji, they are both new attribute Pokémon. As for how to find out, Chen Shi pondered for a while and said, I researched a new energy block when I was traveling before. Madame Waji and Togepi love to eat. I found that this energy block is quite suitable for them, so I didn't change it and let them eat it all the time. Until some time ago, I found that they gradually had a new energy in their bodies, and they also learned some unknown moves. After many verifications, I think this must be a new attribute. I call it the fairy system. The two old men were instantly unsettled. What kind of fantasy experience is this? Do you think you are filming a TV series? Grandpa Chen calmed down and asked, does this new attribute require energy blocks to replenish the energy in the body? No one has discovered it before, because no one has made the energy blocks of the hours, so no one has discovered this attribute. Grandma Chen also thought this explanation made sense. However, there are actually attributes in the world that require specific energy blocks to awaken. Sure enough, Pokémon hides countless secrets. She suddenly understood those crazy researchers. It feels good to unlock the secrets of Pokémon. However, Chen Shi denied Grandpa's conjecture and gave an explanation. This new attribute does not require energy blocks to awaken. Let me give you an example. What would happen if all the ghost energy in the world disappeared? Grandpa Chen was silent for a while and replied, then all ghost attribute Pokémon will no longer be able to absorb ghost attribute energy from the air. Over time, they will not be able to use ghost-type moves, and then ghosts will disappear from the world. Chen Shi smiled, what if I give him a ghost-type energy block at this time? Grandpa Chen looked to the grandson, what do you mean? That's right. The reason why the fairy system was not discovered before is that the fairy energy in the world has disappeared. And now the fairy energy is gradually recovering. Just at this time, I accidentally researched the fairy energy block. So Madame Waji and Togepi will awaken the fairy system because of this. Even if I don't research the fairy energy block, the fairy system will be discovered later. Because the fairy energy in the world is recovering. Grandpa and Grandma were stunned for a moment. The news given by the grandson today is really shocking. The fairy system was not discovered before because the fairy energy disappeared from the world. And now the fairy energy is slowly recovering again, and the Pokémon world is about to usher in a new attribute. If these words were not said by the grandson himself, the two old people would definitely think he was crazy. After a moment, Grandpa Chen came back to his senses. How do you know for sure that it is the fairy energy in this world that is reviving? It is not because of your energy cube that Madame Wajia awakens. Chen Shi organized his words and explained, first of all, it is because of time. It has been 7 months since I subdued Madame Wajia, and it has only been 3 years since I subdued Togepi, months. When I subdued Madame Wajia, she was eating this energy cube. That means Madame Wajia ate it for 7 months, while Togepi only ate it for 3 months. And Madame Wajia is the final evolution. Logically speaking, Madame Wajia should definitely awaken before Togepi, don't you think? Grandpa and Grandma nodded and admitted this statement. If so, then Madame Wajia should indeed awaken first. Then, Chen Shi continued, but Madame Wajia and Togepi awakened on the same day. They learned some unknown moves at the same time. I don't think this is a coincidence. There must be some changes in the world, and the energy of the fairy system is reviving. So Madame Wajia and Togepi awakened on the same day. Hearing this, the two old people also felt that it made sense, but words were not enough. Grandpa Chen still wanted to see it and confirm it in person before he felt relieved. Chen Shi also understood that before seeing the fairy energy, although his grandparents believed him, they must have some doubts in their hearts. So he took his grandparents out of the house and found Madame Wajia in the garden. Madame Wajia, please condense some fairy energy for my grandparents to see. Wah! Madame Wajia didn't waste any words and controlled the fairy energy in her body to condense in her hands. The two old people looked at the purple energy in Madame Wajia's hand and were amazed. It's really an energy I haven't seen before. It doesn't match the other 17 attributes. Yes, I didn't expect Madame Wajia to be not a grass-type Pokémon, but a fairy-type. After seeing this new energy, the grandparents put aside the last bit of doubt in their hearts. Grandpa Chen looked at his grandson in front of him and suddenly sighed. This is not a genius. This is a monster. In the living room of the Chen family villa, Grandpa Chen asked his grandson how he wanted to deal with the fairy system. Chen Shi said indifferently, the fairy system has not yet revived in the world. For the time being, I can only rely on my energy cube to awaken it. I plan to hide it first and release it after the fairy system is fully revived. By then, I can at least be a top researcher. Grandma Chen agreed with this approach very much, but she felt a little regretful. If it weren't for the fact that I was still young and only released the evolution of 3 elves, I might have become a doctor when the fairy system was announced. Grandpa Chen also thought so, and he couldn't help feeling sorry for his grandson. But Chen Shi's expression was a little strange. What if we add super evolution? The 2 old men were stunned, and then they became excited. Grandpa Chen slapped his thigh. Yes, there is also super evolution. With 1 more super evolution, Chen Shi will definitely strive to become a doctor. The 2 old men were very open-minded. Although they were a nurturing family, they did not restrict the development of their grandson. If they could become a doctor when they were young, they would be equally happy and proud of it. Ha ha ha, good, good, good. Grandpa Chen laughed heartily. The last time he was so happy was when Chen Shi had the ability of an intermediate breeder at the age of 11. Grandma Chen looked at her grandson, feeling very proud and satisfied. Chen Shi suddenly asked, Grandpa, speaking of super evolution, how are the super evolution stones collected now? Don't forget it. Grandpa Chen laughed and scolded, Don't worry, you little brat, Grandpa remembers it all. But because I can only collect it secretly, I only found 3 pieces now. As he said that, he took out a small cloth bag from his arms and threw it to Chen Shi. Chen Shi opened it excitedly, but found that the 3 pieces were Charizard X, Mouth Baby, and Boscodora. There was no Mega Gold Mega Evolution Stone that he expected. Seeing Xiaoxi's disappointed look, Grandpa Chen asked, What's wrong? Are you dissatisfied with these? Chen Shi shook his head, It's not that I'm dissatisfied, but there's nothing I can use. Collect slowly, there's no rush for this. Chen Shi also understood this truth, and without saying much, he stuffed the super evolution stone into his pocket. Just about to go upstairs to write a paper, he suddenly remembered something. Grandpa, you haven't told me if there is a metal film at home. Grandpa Chen thought about it carefully and shook his head, I really don't have this. Go buy one yourself, anyway, you only want ordinary quality. Take your grandma's Lebite land shark and go to Zijin City to buy it. I'm afraid there's no one for sale in Green Shade Town. Grandma Chen took out a Pokeball after hearing this, Take it, let that idiot go out for a walk. Chen Shi took the Pokeball with a smile, went upstairs to get some things and went straight to the back mountain. In front of the Tyrannosaurus cave, Tyrannosaurus was still teaching Duolongqi, while Tyrannosaurus was basking in the sun leisurely. At this time, Duolongqi's meteor shower was already quite good, and it could explode in the sky and fall down. Obviously, Duolongqi had already learned the meteor shower, and the next step was to improve his proficiency. Seeing Chen Shi coming over, Duolongqi excitedly pointed to the holes made by the meteor shower, with a smug look on his face. Chia, okay, I know our Duolong is the best, and you must learn well from Sister Long. Duolongqi was so proud that he patted his belly to show that he would work hard. Chen Shi patted its head, I'm going to buy some things today and will be back soon. I won't take you this time. Hearing that he was just going to buy some things, Duolongqi immediately lost interest and flew to Tyrannosaurus to learn again. Then, Chen Shi walked to the sunbathing Garchomp, took out a bottle of wine and opened it. Garchomp got up after smelling the smell. Garcho, do you want it? Garchomp nodded frantically. Come with me to Zijin City and I'll give it to you. I'll give you another bottle when I come back. Garchomp was a little hesitant. It was not easy to take it without the trainer's order. Chen Shi understood what he was hesitating about and took out a Pokeball to show him. Garchomp got up directly and turned his back to Chen Shi. Garcho, brother, come up quickly. Outside Zijin City, Garchomp took Chen Shi to land on an open space outside the city because flying Pokémon were not allowed to be ridden in the city. After getting down, Chen Shi took Garchomp back into the Pokeball. To be honest, although Garchomp is fast, it is not very suitable for riding. It's better to use the Dragonite. Her back is big, so you can sit on it however you want. Very quickly, Chen after entering the city, he found a department store and asked the waiter directly. Where is your metal film? The waiter was stunned. Sorry, sir, we are sold out of metal film. Sold out? Chen Shi was dumbfounded. How could it be sold out? Yes, sir, you can make an appointment with us, and new goods will arrive in 2 days. Chen Shi waved his hand. Forget it, I'll go somewhere else. I'm so sorry, sir. It's okay. After that, Chen Shi found 2 more stores selling props, but unfortunately the final results were not satisfactory. Walking on the road in Zijin City, Chen Shi scratched his head. How could he not even buy a metal film? Why didn't he check the almanac before going out today? Suddenly, Chen Shi remembered a place his grandfather had taken him to. He turned around immediately and found a remote bar. After turning around, Chen Shi went directly to the counter, found the owner of the bar, and threw him 10,000 alliance coins. Take me downstairs. The bar owner took the money and took him to a small room without any nonsense. After opening the cabinet in the room, a staircase leading down appeared in front of him. The bar owner asked, "Do you need a black robe and a mask?" No. As soon as he finished speaking, Chen Shi went down directly. The bar owner shook his head and muttered a word of a fool. After coming down the stairs, a huge underground space came into view. The road was filled with various stalls on both sides, selling some rare materials or props. Most people around were wearing black robes and masks, only Chen Shi looked out of place. Without paying attention to the strange looks of the people around him, Chen Shi looked from stall to stall. Most of these things were fake, and some could even be mistaken for the real thing. If Chen Shi didn't have a system panel, he might not be able to tell. Soon, Chen Shi stopped in front of a stall owner wearing a black robe. Picking up something, he asked, "How much is this stone?" The stall owner looked up and quoted a price. 100,000. Okay. Chen Shi didn't waste any words and took out 100,000 cash and threw it on the stall. Then he left with the stone. After taking a look at the Lucario Mega Evolution Stone in his hand, Chen Shi suddenly felt that it would be good to sell out the metal film in the store. Otherwise, where would the unexpected gain come from? After spending 1 million to buy 2 metal films, Chen Shi wandered around the black market. In fact, the Alliance also knew about the black market, and it was even under its supervision. The reason why the Alliance allowed these developments was that after closing down one black market, there would be a second one. There will be darkness when there is light in this world, and these things are inevitable. So as long as you don't go too far, the Alliance will turn a blind eye. Just when Chen Shi was about to turn around and leave, a stunted Charmander locked in an iron cage caught his attention. Pokémon. Charmander. Level 34 Advanced Midterm. Qualification. Semi-champion, flowing. Features. Fierce fire. Gender. Male. Skills. Grab, spark, smoke screen, dragon breath, split, dragon claw, dragon god dive, primal power, dragon tail. Good guy. The qualification of a semi-champion, more than 30 levels have not evolved. And inherited 3 dragon skills. The father of this little guy is not ordinary. He must be a pure-blooded dragon Pokémon. Chen Shi walked to the cage and looked into the eyes of this little guy. The stall owner behind was a middle-aged man with a groin nose. Seeing that Chen Shi was interested in Charmander, he immediately introduced it. "Brother, are you interested in this Charmander? This is the fire-type Pokémon from Kanto. We also spent a lot of effort to get it. If you are interested, let's talk about the price." Chen Shi just whispered, "I'll take a look." His eyes never left Charmander's eyes. At this time, the Charmander in the cage looked up at him and ignored Chen Shi. Charmander has been bought and sold several times, and he is used to people observing him like a commodity. Those people bought him back and found that he could not evolve and could not breathe fire, so they sold him again. Thinking of his previous life, Charmander's eyes dimmed, but there was a trace of unwillingness in the deepest part. Why can't I learn to breathe fire? Why can't I evolve? Why can't I do what other little fire dragons can do easily? But what the little fire dragon didn't notice was that the boy in front of him had bright eyes, as if he had found a piece of fine jade. Chen Shi was not afraid of the little fire dragon's poor health or bad character, but he was afraid that he would lose his spirit. Chen Shi immediately said to the hooked nose behind him, "I want this little fire dragon." Hooked nose was overjoyed. He liked these young men the most. As long as this kind of people like something, they basically won't bargain. After that, he hesitated and tentatively quoted a price. 1 million. No problem. Chen Shi agreed immediately without hesitation. Buying a little fire dragon with quasi-champion qualifications for 1 million, it's a big profit, okay. Hook Nose was overjoyed immediately. It can be seen that Chen Shi agreed so readily, and his greed couldn't help but play tricks. Brother, I just quoted the wrong price for this million. We took a lot of effort to bring this Charmander back from Guandu, and 3 brothers died. 1 million is not enough. 2 million is needed. Chen Shi was stunned, and then chuckled, where is the Pokeball of this little guy? Hook Nose felt that he had agreed, and was overjoyed and took out a Pokeball from his back. Chen Shi did not hesitate, took the Pokeball and put Charmander in it. Then he took out another Pokeball from his waist and released Garchomp. Garcho was also very cooperative, and the aura of the peak of the king emanated from him. The powerful aura covered the entire black market, like a heavy hammer hitting everyone's heart. In an instant, the entire black market fell into silence, and no one dared to speak. Some timid people were even scared to pee. Looking at the pale-faced Hawk Nose in front of him, Chen Shi asked, I'll give you a chance to reorganize your words. Tell me, how much is it this time? Hawk Nose trembled his lips. Little brother, 1 million. I only need 1 million. Chen Shi shook his head and took out 100 yuan alliance coin and threw it in front of him. I'm sorry, when I was willing to give you 1 million, you didn't want it. Now I'm only willing to give you 100 yuan. After saying that, Chen Shi took back the Lee-biting land shark and walked away. As the Lee-biting land shark was taken back, the momentum that was pressing on everyone disappeared, and the people in the black market breathed a sigh of relief. Some people sneered, this fool, since he dared to show up here in a swagger, he must have something to rely on. You dare to mess with this kind of person, you are really not afraid of death. Some people also attached, that's right. I was just standing by, and this guy offered 1 million, and the guy agreed, but he actually raised the price to 2 million. Now you've hit a wall, right? You don't even have 1 million left, only 100. It's hilarious. Hook Nose blushed, but he didn't dare to refute, and quickly packed up and ran away. Back at the door of his house, Chen Shi was in a hurry to leave. After all, there was a little fire dragon waiting for him in his pocket. But Lie-biting land shark couldn't stand it anymore, and grabbed Chen Shi's clothes. Land shark, what do you mean, brother? I said I'd give you another bottle when I got back. I worked overtime in the middle, and I cooperated with you so much in the black market. Now you turn around and don't recognize the dragon. You don't do things like that. Chen Shi's mouth twitched, and he took out 3 bottles of wine from his backpack and gave them to him. Garchomp was satisfied. He thought there was only 1 bottle, but now there are 2 more. Is this overtime pay? Thinking of this, Garchomp patted Chen Shi on the shoulder. Garcho, brother, call me next time if there is such a thing. Okay, I have something to do, I will go back first. Chen Shi waved his hand, rushed into the villa, and ran directly to the 2nd floor. This confused Grandpa Chen and Grandma Chen. What is this again, so anxious and hurried? After returning to the room, Chen Shi released Charmander and stretched out his hand. Hello, Charmander, my name is Chen Shi, and I will be your trainer in the future. Charmander looked at the boy in front of him with a gentle smile, and shook his hand very politely. But the next moment, he pulled his tail, which was only burning with a little flame, and pointed it to Chen Shi. Then he opened his mouth and tried hard to spit out something, but only a few wisps of black smoke came out of his mouth. Chen Shi nodded thoughtfully. Are you saying that you can't use fire skills? No. The little dragon nodded, indicating that it was like that. Then are you willing to do this? Do you want to become stronger? In this world, all the good things must be fought for by yourself, some with sincerity and some with strength. Are you really willing to be a useless little dragon? No. The little dragon's eyes dimmed. But some things are not what I want. I have tried very hard. I train tirelessly every day, but in the end there is no effect. I just can't spit out flames. I was bought back again and again, and then abandoned again and again. What else can I do? Suddenly, a warm hand touched his head. Believe me, Charmander, you are no worse than any Pokémon, I will help you. I will cure your illness and help you become stronger. One day, I will take you to fight on the highest stage in the world. I will make those who look down on you look up to you in the future. How about it, are you willing to be my partner? Charmander's tears could not stop flowing down. When he heard the last sentence, Charmander roared fiercely. Yeah, I do. Come on, you must be hungry, eat this. Chen Shi took out some high-level general purpose and handed it to Charmander. Charmander had been starving for a long time, and he took it and started to eat voraciously. Beta, I am willing too. Suddenly, a mechanical sound rang in Chen Shi's ears. Turning his head, it turned out to be Iron Dumbbell. It had woken up a long time ago, but it had not made a sound to disturb the interaction between the trainer and Charmander. Just when Charmander was eating, it finally flew over and expressed its attitude. Chen Shi touched its metallic body, and a trace of apology emerged in his heart. Sorry Iron Dumbbell, I didn't notice you just now. Beta, Iron Dumbbell narrowed his eyes to show that he didn't care. Chen Shi smiled, you want to fight too? Beta. Iron Dumbbell nodded. When it lived in the tribe, it knew that it was different from other tribesmen. It's not just the color of the body that's different, but everything else is different. It's bigger and smarter than its peers. Iron Dumbbell has seen the battle between the leader of the Metagross and the leader of the Boscadora, and the scene of destruction is still vivid in his mind. Just one aftermath was enough to kill it dozens of times, and it was deeply shocked at that time. It also wanted to be as powerful as the leader of the Metagross, and didn't want to be a weak Iron Dumbbell anymore. So when Daigo said he would take it away and find a trainer for it, it agreed. Many people came to the Metagross tribe before, wanting to subdue it, but it always felt that those people were missing something, so it didn't go with them. But when Daigo took him to find the boy in front of him, a voice suddenly emerged in his heart. That's him. So at that time, Iron Dumbbell didn't hesitate and directly recognized Chen Shi as his trainer. Chen Shi walked to the window with Iron Dumbbell and pointed at Pokémon and Madame Wajia who were training hard below. Did you see that? If you want to fight, you have to train every day and fight against all kinds of powerful enemies. Are you afraid? Beta. Iron Dumbbell glanced down and shook his head slowly. It has never been afraid of hardship or pain. It just wants to become stronger, as strong as the leader of the Metagross, or even stronger than it. Okay. Chen Shi smiled with satisfaction. The reason why the quasi-god is called a quasi-god is not just because of the racial value of 600. It is because these Pokémon basically have a heart to become stronger, which is a gene engraved in their bones. This kind of Pokémon is very easy to cultivate. You just need to make various training plans for him, give him enough growth resources, and take care of his psychology. He will basically not let you down. Pokémon like Metagross, Bonglas, and Garchomp are all known for their ferocity. Only Dragonite and Smelly are weird and very gentle. But if you make them angry, they will kill you in a minute. Chen Shi patted the Iron Dumbbell. Your goal now is to eat. You are about to evolve. When you evolve into a metal monster, I will arrange a training plan for you. Beta. Iron Dumbbell agreed immediately. Chen Shi walked to Charmander and carefully examined him. There must be a reason why Charmander has not evolved and cannot emit flames at level 30. There are several reasons, but as long as it is not a congenital genetic defect, he is confident that he can cure Charmander. But he checked for a long time and found no problem with Charmander. Chen Shi frowned slightly. This shouldn't be right. Charmander frowned at his training and felt more and more uneasy. Is it really impossible to cure it? Don't move, I'll use my superpowers to show you, remember not to resist. No. Charmander agreed directly, closed his eyes and let the new trainer check. After that, Chen Shi released his superpowers and carefully explored Charmander's body. But the result surprised Chen Shi. This guy's body is full of dragon attribute energy, and the original fire energy is suppressed. It's strange that you can spit fire. No wonder it hasn't evolved at such a high level. It turns out that there is too little energy in this system, which is not enough to support its evolution. After thinking about it, Chen Shi still plans to let his grandparents take a look. After all, what if he made a mistake? It's not shameful to ask for help from parents, as having an old person in the family is like having a treasure. Don't worry, I already know the reason, it will be fine. I'll take you to my grandparents and ask them to help you take a look. Surprise suddenly appeared in the eyes of the little fire dragon, and he nodded vigorously, and followed Chen Shi downstairs. Grandpa, Grandma, please help me take care of this child. Chen Shi found his grandparents downstairs and pushed the little fire dragon. Hearing this, the two old people frowned slightly at the thin little fire dragon. Grandpa Chen immediately pulled the little fire dragon over to check. The flame on the little fire dragon's tail is so weak, but it seems that there is no big problem with its life. It should be that there is a problem with the fire energy in the body. And this strength has reached the advanced middle stage, but it has not evolved yet. Chen Shi couldn't help but sigh that the old ginger is still spicy, and he saw the problem at a glance. Grandpa, he inherited 3 dragon skills. The dragon energy in his body is scary, and the fire energy is suppressed, causing him to not even release sparks. Grandpa shook his head. It's not just the dragon energy that's scary. Quote, his talent is also terrifyingly high. It's comparable to your Swampert when he was a child. Oh, Grandma Chen became interested. When she was a child, she and her husband had to work so hard to get such a high talent. This Charmander can actually be compared with Swampert. When you were a child, where did you find this Charmander? Faced with Grandma's inquiry, Chen Shi did not hide it and told her about the black market. The two old men did not judge whether their grandson was right or not after hearing it. This world is the law of the jungle. If you are strong, you are right. If you have a big fist, you are right. Chen Shi asked again, Grandpa, how should Charmander's situation be solved? Charmander also looked at the old man expectantly. Listening to what this person said, the problem of his body should be solved. Grandpa Chen thought for a while and replied, this is very simple. Just let him use more dragon-type moves to release the dragon-type energy in his body. Quote, then we can use fire resources to enhance Charmander's fire energy. But we can't rush this process. He's in such poor health now. Let's make up for it first. If Charmander recovers, it will probably evolve soon. This imperfect evolution will damage Charmander's potential. Chen Shi also felt that what his grandfather said made sense, and then he touched Charmander's head. Charmander, you have to recover your body. After you recover, you can evolve and become stronger. Ka-na-na. Charmander clenched his fist, and his eyes gradually became firm. Grandpa, do you have any fire resources at home? Grandpa Chen pondered for a moment and said, there are a few high-level fire stones. I'll let Gardevoir give them to you later. Later, let your grandma make an energy block specifically for Charmander. I believe Charmander will get better soon. Chen Shi was overjoyed. Thank you, Grandpa and Grandma. The two old people just smiled and said nothing. They were so happy that their grandson could find such a talented Charmander. In their opinion, this matter was nothing at all. Suddenly, Chen Shi sat next to his grandmother holding Charmander. Grandma, I want to give you the fairy energy block. I'm not good enough. I've only developed an intermediate fairy energy block. Can you improve it? Oh, Grandma Chen's eyes lit up. Tell me what the formula is. Chen Shi thought for a while and said, 80 g sweet peach, 7 grams persimmon fruit, 30 grams mangmang fruit, 100 grams scorched fruit, 25 grams yueju fruit, 5 grams tongtong fruit, 5 grams thunder fruit. The more Grandma Chen listened, the more incredible it was. This was actually an energy block made of 7 kinds of fruit. This amount of fruit is enough to make a top-level energy block. Seemingly a little embarrassed by the grandma's surprised eyes, Chen Shi scratched his head and explained. I wanted to make advanced energy blocks, but I don't know if there is a problem with the technique or the order of adding. Anyway, the fairy energy blocks I made are only intermediate. Grandma Chen heard this and frantically thought about the mixing method of these tree fruits in her mind. Chen Shi ran upstairs again and took out a piece of energy block that Mrs. Hua Jia usually ate to show Grandma. After the old man took it, he gently bit off a piece and tasted it carefully in his mouth. Finally, Grandma Chen said, I haven't made this kind of energy block either. I need to study it. Give me a few more pieces. Chen Shi had no objection and even took out the energy block making machine in his backpack and demonstrated it to Grandma. Grandma Chen immediately went back to her laboratory to study this new energy block. Chen Shi reminded with a smile, Grandma, don't forget my little fire dragon. Remember to make an energy block for him too. The old man didn't even turn his head, but just waved his hand to indicate that he knew. Grandpa Chen said with a smile, this is how your grandma behaves when she encounters something that interests her. Don't worry about it. If she doesn't make energy blocks for you, Grandpa will make them for you. Chen Shi was just talking, and he wasn't actually worried that his grandma would forget. Because Grandpa and Grandma always care about his affairs. Just as the grandfather and grandson were chatting, a figure suddenly rushed in from the gate. Brother Chen Shi, I caught Onyx. It's an elite Onyx. Looking at Farong, who was in a mess in front of him, Chen Shi asked with concern, you didn't encounter any danger, did you? Farong wiped the dust off her little face and said indifferently, it's okay, it's just that this Onyx likes to dig holes, and I spent a lot of effort to find him. Brother Chen Shi, you see, Onyx was also caught. You. Farong said the last part, looking at Chen Shi expectantly, the meaning was self-evident. Chen Shi sighed helplessly, I didn't bring the money with me, I'll give it to you later. Yeah. Farong nodded like a chick pecking at rice. Afterwards, Chen Shi took the Pokeball, walked outside and released Onyx. A flash of red light passed, and a dying Onyx appeared in front of him. Chen Shi said to him, Onyx, I came to you to ask for your help. I know how you evolve, you just need to cooperate with me. I will heal your wounds, and then I will release you after you evolve. How about it? Onyx looked at the human in front of him in confusion, not knowing whether to believe what he said. Anyway, you are also a prisoner now, there is no need for me to lie to you. Onyx thought, it seems to be like this. Anyway, he has been caught by someone, and he can't escape no matter what, so he might as well trust this person once. Afterwards, Onyx nodded and agreed. Chen Shi smiled, sprayed him with some medicine, and then asked Gardevoir to give him a life drop. Onyx's breath immediately improved a lot, and the painful look eased. After putting Onyx back into the Pokeball, Chen Shi put on the metal film and followed his grandfather into the underground laboratory. This is where Grandpa and Grandma make potions and energy the place with blocks. Chen Shi would come here with his grandfather to study every afternoon. Grandpa Chen led him to find the teleporter in the corner. Chen Shi didn't waste any words, took out the camera and started shooting, and then released Onyx. Onyx couldn't move in this small space at all, and looked at Chen Shi in confusion as soon as it came out. Come, bite this. Chen Shi threw the metal film to Onyx to bite, and then took him back to the Pokeball. Then, Chen Shi put the Pokeball in one of the grooves of the teleporter. After setting the teleportation location to his own teleporter, Chen Shi started the machine. The next moment, the Pokeball disappeared from the groove of the teleporter and appeared in another groove. Then, Chen Shi opened the Pokeball, and the light of evolution suddenly emanated from Onyx. Grandpa Chen on the other side was amazed. He didn't expect that there were such Pokémons in the world that needed to be teleported to evolve. How did these Pokémons evolve before the teleporter was developed? A moment later, a metallic Steelix appeared in front of them. Its appearance features include a gray body, red eyes, and a nail-like tail. After Chen Shi turned off the camera, he asked Steelix, how do you feel? Steelix twisted his body and felt that he had never felt so good before. It's just that the space here is too small for him to stretch his body. It would be better if it were bigger. Chen Shi didn't wait for Steelix's answer and took him back into the Pokeball. Because from Steelix's eyes, you can see that he is very satisfied. Grandpa Chen came over and said, I didn't expect Rocksnake to evolve like this. It's incredible. Hearing this, Chen Shi smiled and said, Pokémon itself is incredible. Chapter 31. That night, a paper created quite a stir in the researcher forum. Because the title of this paper is, On How Onyx Evolves into Steelix. There is also a video below the paper as evidence. Although there is only one example, anyone with a discerning eye can see that Steelix is the evolution of Onyx. It's amazing. Who is this person with severe choice difficulty? He has discovered a new evolution. Indeed, I remember that he just released 2 new evolutions of Eevee some time ago. The young are formidable, we are old. At this time, Professor Oak suddenly commented below. What a genius idea. He actually thought of using the special magnetic field of the teleporter to stimulate Onyx's evolution. Otajuki from the Hoenn region also popped up. It's indeed a genius idea. Maybe there are many Pokémon that can also evolve by this method. Won't the league give a researcher status? Seeing the big guy speak, the staff of the league couldn't sit still. Then Chen Shi's account was followed by a logo, Junior Researcher. Chen Shi didn't care about this either. He didn't even think highly of a junior researcher. Researchers at this level were useless. They usually helped senior or top researchers. However, according to the quality of Chen Shi's 3 papers, it was no problem for him to be a junior researcher. But for someone like him who didn't have a real name and whose identity was unknown, it was already very good for the Alliance to give him a junior researcher. Sinnoh, Institute of History. Mustard Orchid looked at the paper in front of her and was amazed. This person with severe choice difficulty is really a genius. He can think of this. I don't know what kind of person he is. Why doesn't he use his real name? It happened that Shirona came to deliver food to her grandmother and heard this. She asked in confusion, "Grandma, what are you talking about? What do you mean by not using your real name?" Mustard Orchid turned her head and pointed to the paper on the computer and said, "It's this person with severe indecisiveness. He published a new paper on Steelix. And the way of evolution is very unique. He actually thought of using the special magnetic field during teleportation to evolve. What a great genius." Shirona's pretty face had long been dark. Of course, she knew who this person with severe indecisiveness was. Her own Glaceon evolved with the help of the other party. And isn't this online name referring to herself? Shirona snorted inwardly, "Don't let me see you." "What's wrong, Nana?" GZ Lan saw that her granddaughter looked unhappy and asked with concern. Shirona hesitated for a while and decided to tell her grandmother. Anyway, she would definitely know it in the future. Immediately, Shirona said with a dark face, "This person is Chen Shi." GZ Lan was stunned, and then suddenly realized. No wonder this girl happened to have a Glaceon and that boy also had a Leafeon. It really matches. But, GZ Lan seemed to have thought of something. If this person was a child, then it would be clear who this severe choice difficulty syndrome was referring to. This granddaughter of hers was good in many ways, but she just had a severe choice difficulty syndrome. Thinking of this, GZ Lan looked at Shirona teasingly. "Nana, you are now famous. Now I guess all the major doctors have remembered this name." Shirona's ears turned red. She wanted to rush to Fengyuan and kill Chen Shi immediately. What a crappy name. In the Green Shade Town farm, Chen Shi couldn't help sneezing. "Who the hell scolded me?" Farong, who was counting money on the side, was stunned. "Brother Chen Shi, are you sure you don't have a cold?" Chen Shi's mouth twitched, and he said unhappily, "What kind of cold do I have? I'm in good health." Cha Ke-yi. Pak Ggu suddenly flew over and pointed at the refrigerator with his little hand. "She has completed today's training mission, and now it's time to enjoy ice cream." Seeing the trainer agreed, Pokémon flew to the refrigerator, opened it skillfully, and took out an ice cream. Choco. Pokémon landed on the sofa and enjoyed it beautifully. Chen Shi shook his head, not knowing how Swampert and Leafeon were doing. Since they came back to Chen Shi a few days ago and took a lot of food, there has been no news until now. However, Chen Shi was not worried about their safety, but he missed them more or less. Since they were captured, Leafeon and Swampert have not left him for so long. It's easy to find Doran, but I saw them today. I passed one level, but it's still level 56. Chen Shi probably upgraded Dragonite too quickly, so Dragonite was not allowed to upgrade. Sometimes upgrading too quickly is not a good thing, you can only go far by taking one step at a time. There is also the lineup problem. Others are all Sandstorm teams, Rainy teams, but Chen Shi is a casual team. Because Chen Shi never considers these when catching Pokémon. If there is a destiny, he will catch it, if there is no destiny, forget it. Of course, talent is also required. Chen Shi's current lineup is actually not bad, but it is difficult for them to cooperate with each other. If all members fight in the wild, Chen Shi will suffer a lot. But in the official competition, Chen Shi is not so easy to target. Also, after listening to his grandfather last time, Chen Shi plans to publish a few more papers to expand his influence and increase his popularity. In this way, when the fairy system and super evolution are announced in the future, he may really become a doctor. The benefits for Chen Shi are unimaginable. Ever since Grandpa Farong gave him a piece of Giratina's reverse scale last time, Chen Shi's mind has become active. Even the 2 old men in the Sending God volcano can come up with such resources. Such a large alliance must have a lot of legendary resources. Chen Shi must have enough chips to get these things from the Alliance. Super Evolution and Fairy System are Chen Shi's two biggest cards. Another week passed. During this period, Grandma Chen's high-level Fairy Energy Cube was also successfully made. After Madame Hua Jia ate it for 4 days, she learned a skill that surprised Chen Shi. Magic Flash. This skill can be said to be the signature attack skill of the Fairy System. Madame Hua Jia can learn this, which means that she has a lot of fairy energy in her body. There will definitely be more and more skills to learn in the future. As for Pokigu, there is no movement yet. This little guy is now practicing the air slash skill every day according to Chen Shi's requirements. The mastery is not bad. Now he can swing an air slash in about 2 seconds. There is no change in the level of Duolongqi, but the proficiency of various dragon skills is rising. Dragon Dance can be used in more than 3 seconds. This is already a remarkable time. You know, it takes more than 2 seconds for the violent flying dragon to dance. But how long has the violent flying dragon lived, and how old is Duolongqi? So it is really amazing that Duolongqi can use Dragon Dance in more than 3 seconds. The other one is Charmander. This guy has a constant stone and a high-level fire stone on his neck, and he eats a lot every day. He is also growing taller. He is no longer malnourished. This guy is now about 80 centimeters tall, which is higher than the average height of Charmander. And he trains the hardest every day. It is no exaggeration to say that he sweats profusely. He made Pocky Gouda next door cry. Now Charmander's fire skills can be used normally, but it has not yet reached a balance with the dragon energy in the body, so it cannot evolve for the time being. Chen Shi estimated that it would take about a week or 2. Finally, there is the heavyweight player, Flashing Iron Dumbbell. It evolved into a metal monster yesterday, and drank the grandfather's potential potion during the evolution process. Now it has a champion-level talent. As soon as it evolved, it ran to train excitedly. It looked like it wanted to compete with Charmander. Brother Chen Shi. Beside Madame Hua Jia's garden, Chen Shi opened his eyes and asked Farong, who was running towards him from a distance. What are you doing again? My Xiaoling has broken through the gym level. Farong raised her head proudly, just like a little rooster. Chen Shi said calmly, then what? To be honest, Chen Shi was not surprised at all that the night demon spirit broke through the gym level. I just don't understand what Farong means by this. Is she showing off or what? Let me fight your Duolong. Farong said confidently. Chen Shi was happy, are you sure? She didn't know where this girl got the confidence from, although Duolong was not the final evolution. But Duolong was amazingly fast. How could you, a night demon spirit, have the confidence to fight Duolong? Of course, I have confidence in Xiaoling. Farong is still full of confidence. Okay, Chen Shi agreed immediately. Come with me to the back mountain, we will fight there. In front of the Tyrannosaurus cave, Chen Shi found Duolong. Duolong, Farong's night demon wants to fight with you. Duolong glanced at the night demon with his narrow eyes, and saw that the latter was already at the gym level, and then nodded excitedly and agreed. He hasn't forgotten that he lost the first battle after his evolution. This night demon came just in time. Then come. Chen Shi took Farong away from the Tyrannosaurus cave a little bit and found an open space. Although Farong looked confident, she was still very cautious in her heart. She knew that Duolong was not easy to deal with, but she also had a trick. That's why she dared to ask for a fight with Duolong. In the open space, the two faced each other from a distance. Go, Dragonite, we're going to go too, Xiaoling. Dragonite flew to the field, and so did Darkmoon. Chen Shi smiled, let's get started. Dragonite, sneak attack. Xiaoling, use gravity. As Dragonite drilled into the alien space, Darkmoon also released a gravity field. Gravity is a skill that is critical for Darkmoon, which has a low speed. Because this Pokémon has average special attacks, but high physical attacks. For Dragonite, who is good at speed, if it doesn't have this skill, it will be almost impossible to win against Dragonite, which is higher in level and faster than him. This must be the reason why Farong is confident. While Dragonite drills into the alien space, and then releases gravity, Dragonite will definitely be much faster when it comes out. Discount. As long as Darkling can seize the opportunity, maybe it can take down Dragonite in one wave. Because the two Pokémon restrain each other, and Dragonite has poor physical strength, this is Farong's chance to win. What he didn't know was that Chenshi was a wall climbing. As early as the first time they met, he noticed Darkling's skill. How could he not be on guard? Use guard after attacking, and then take the strange gaze. Use the freezing fist immediately after Dragonite comes out. The two's command voices sounded again, but Farong's face sank. At the moment when Chenshi's voice fell, Dragonite rushed out of the alien space fiercely, and the ghost energy hit Darkling fiercely. Then he immediately held up a green light curtain to block the oncoming freezing fist. Get out of the way of Xiaoling! Farong shouted anxiously. Chia, but how could Dragonite give her this opportunity? I saw Duolongchi condense 3 strange light balls directly and hit the Night Demon. This attack did not cause much damage to him, but it made the Night Demon fall into chaos. Now the Night Demon only felt that he was surrounded by Duolongchi. Chenshi smiled slightly. The little girl is still young. At such a close distance, how could the Night Demon avoid this strange look just now after being attacked by the Chinling surprise attack? It is best to fight back at this time. However, Chenshi did not stop. Chinling surprise attack, keep the distance. In the real world, the skill of Chinling surprise attack does not have to be used for attack. It can be used to run away, or it can be used to keep the distance like this. And Duolongchi also understood what Chenshi meant, and he flicked his tail and drilled into the different space. The Night Demon in the chaotic state now can no longer cause any damage to Duolongchi. As long as Duolong comes with 2 shadow balls, the battle can be ended directly. But this is just a competition. There is no need to beat the Night Demon until it loses its fighting ability. Originally, Chenshi wanted to call Duolong back directly, but Farong on the opposite side was more anxious than Chenshi. Brother Chenshi, I give up. Duolongchi just came out of the alien space and heard the words of the other side giving up, and he was immediately very happy. Excitedly ran to Chenshi to take credit. Yeah. Chenshi was not stingy with praise and gave it a thumbs up. You did a great job. Our Duolong is the best. Farong, don't worry, the Night Demon is not seriously injured. Just spray some medicine on it. Chenshi walked to the anxious Farong and took out the medicine he had prepared in advance and sprayed it on the Night Demon. Farong blushed and said, Thank you, brother Chenshi. The little girl was a little shy and felt embarrassed for losing the game. Put the Night Demon in the Pokeball first. Okay, Xiaoling, come back and rest first. After Farong took back the Night Demon, Chenshi also said goodbye to Duolongchi and took her down the mountain. On the way, Chenshi said to Farong, You have too little experience in fighting, and you get anxious easily when you encounter problems. I suggest you find more people to fight with, it will be good for you. Besides, you dare to use Night Slayer to fight against a fast Pokémon like Doraemon, aren't you just walking into the gun? Farong had a bitter face. Before, in the Volcano of the Gods, Grandpa and Grandma also used a fast Pokémon like Gengar to fight against her Night Slayer. But before, as long as Xiaoling released gravity to limit the opponent's speed, Xiaoling could quickly defeat Grandpa and Grandma. Why is it useless against Doraemon now? Little did they know that the 2 old people had just let her go in order to make their granddaughter happy. Gravity is indeed a good skill, but it is not invincible. As long as you are prepared, you can still kite Night Slayer to death. After all, even Groudon's cliff sword is like this, what's the use of gravity? Brother Chenshi, what do you think I should do? After thinking for a moment, Chenshi replied, I think you should go out for a walk. Fight more with others and gain some experience. Farong's eyes lit up. Can I go out now? This girl has longed for the outside world, but it's a pity that Chenshi and the others never mentioned it. Farong didn't ask. Now that Chenshi said she should go out more, doesn't that mean he wants her to go out? As Chenshi walked, he thought that it was time to let this girl go out and see the outside world. It's not good to keep her here all the time. You can't teach things like principles. You can only understand them by experiencing them yourself. Thinking of this, Chenshi nodded, I'll discuss it with Grandpa and Grandma, you should prepare to go out for a trip for a while. But let's make it clear first, you can go out, but every time you arrive at a place, you have to call back to report your safety. Great. Farong was so excited that she almost jumped up, finally she could go out. As for the latter sentence, Farong had selectively forgotten it. Now for her, nothing is more important than going out to play. Then let's go quickly. As she said, Farong took Chen Shi's hand and ran downstairs. Slow down, why are you in such a hurry? Grandpa and Grandma, that's it. I plan to let Farong go out for a trip for a while, what do you think? In the hall on the first floor of the Chen family, the two old people fell into deep thought after hearing their grandson's words. They couldn't help but worry a little, this girl was really too naive. If something unexpected happened when they went out, how would they explain it to their old friends? You know, those two old friends only have this one granddaughter. If she has any misfortune, Grandpa Chen will not be able to see them for the rest of his life. However, the two elders also understand that Farong will eventually go out to see the world and can't stay on the farm forever. What's the difference between that and staying in the Sending God volcano? There is no point in sending Farong out. Chen Shi understood the concerns of his grandparents and gave them a look, indicating that I should find a way. The two elders understand that their grandson has been full of tricks since he was a child, and the child will eventually leave home, just like Chen Shi a year ago. Although they are worried, they still express their support. So they had to nod and agree. Yeah, Farong jumped up in surprise, Grandpa Chen and Grandma Chen are so great. Don't worry, I will definitely report to you on time. Chen Shi said. Go upstairs and pack your things first, tents and other things are all needed. Okay, I'll go now. Hearing this, Farong jumped upstairs. Chen Shi said to the two elders, let Zheng Gui protect her in secret. Otherwise, I'm afraid you two will not be at ease. Ko Jia, Zheng Gui emerged from the shadow of his grandmother. He never thought that eating melons could also eat his own head. I actually want this ghost brother to protect a little girl, isn't this a joke? Grandpa and Grandma thought that what their grandson said made sense, and it was just right to let Zheng Gui protect Farong. Anyway, Gengar has nothing to do at home. Grandma Chen agreed immediately. Zheng Gui, please go and protect Farong for a while. Kue, seeing Grandma Chen's words, Gengar could only agree, and then glared at Chen Shi fiercely, grinning at him. You little kid, I'm so good to you, but you actually let me go out to do such a thankless job. The boat of our friendship has capsized. Chen Shi naturally understood what Gengar meant, but for Farong's safety, he had to trouble Brother Gui. After all, Farong's parents gave her a reward, although this reward has nothing to do with Gengar. Grandpa Chen said at this time, you also go up to help her prepare some things. The little girl is going out for the first time, so it's inevitable that she won't be fully prepared. No problem, Chen Shi agreed, and then went upstairs to help Farong pack up. In front of the entrance of Chen's farm, Farong, carrying a space backpack, waved goodbye to the three people who came to see her off. Brother Chen Shi, and Grandpa and Grandma, you don't have to see me off, don't worry. Wait a minute, Chen Shi stopped Farong and handed her 1 million alliance coins. If you see Scyther and Nira during your trip, help me catch one. It needs to be high level. This is the reward prepared for you in advance. Okay, Brother Chen Shi. Farong took the money with a smile. When I catch it, I will go to the Pokémon Center and teleport it back to you. Goodbye, Brother Chen Shi, and Grandpa and Grandma Chen. Seeing Farong running away, Grandpa Chen stepped forward. Xiao, what do you want Scyther and Nira for? Hearing this, Chen Shi scratched his head and replied, I found the evolution of Scyther and Nira. Grandpa Chen's mouth twitched, are you just doing some research? Chen Shi nodded seriously, yes, I'm just doing some research. On the morning of the second day after Farong left, Chen Shi was supervising the training of Charmander and Metal Monster at the training ground behind his villa. Charmander, don't always pursue the most powerful attack. You should know that you should attack the enemy 70% and keep 30% for yourself. In this way, not only will you release your skills faster, but you will also have spare energy to deal with emergencies. You can't do it like this. Charmander listened to the advice very well. After thinking for a moment, he opened his mouth and spit out a flame according to Chen Shi's request. Charmander's eyes lit up. Sure enough, the skills were released faster, and he had spare energy. Chen Shi said again, try to release sparks continuously. Kano, Charmander agreed, and then released sparks continuously, but the first 2 times were fine. When it came to the 3rd spark, Charmander's release speed was significantly reduced. The 4th and 5th sparks took longer to condense. Charmander lowered his head, feeling a little guilty, thinking that he had failed the trainer's expectations. Because of the previous experience, Charmander was afraid that the trainer would despise him for being useless. But Chen Shi didn't care, because the fire energy in Charmander's body was not particularly abundant, and it was good enough to achieve this step. He encouraged, "Well done, Charmander, just keep training like this. When you can release 5 sparks continuously, try to connect them. Maybe you can learn a new move. Keep working." Kano, seeing that the trainer did not blame him, but encouraged him, Charmander felt warm in his heart. Charmander also came to his senses and realized that he was different from the trainer he had met before. After that, Chen Shi walked to the metal monster again. Pokémon. Metallo. Level. 22 Early Intermediate Level. Qualification. Champion. Features. Pure Body. Gender. None. Skills. Impact, Slam, Mind Hammer, Telekinesis, Metal Claw, Bullet Fist, Iron Wall, Hold. The newly evolved Metallo learned 4 skills directly, and Chen Shi also prepared a hold skill disc for it. The current Metallo also has a good combat power. After watching for a while, Chen Shi said to it, "Metal Monster, you have mastered the bullet punch very well. You can try to fly higher and then hit the opponent with your fist, just like a falling comet." After that, Chen Shi followed the method in the training manual and explained to Metal Monster in detail how to condense the energy of the comet punch. Metal Monster is no longer as stupid as before, now it is very smart. After Chen Shi's explanation, it condensed steel energy on its claws and smashed at the target at an incredibly fast speed. Chen Shi couldn't help but applaud. This Metal Monster is too smart. It's hard to imagine how smart it will be after evolving into Metagross. Okay, you have to focus on practicing the comet punch and get familiar with it as soon as possible. Quote. Beta. The Metal Monster squinted his eyes happily. It felt that it was making progress every day and its strength was getting stronger day by day. This feeling really intoxicated the Metal Monster. Afterwards, Chen Shi went to see Madame Wajia again. She was having a hard time because the energy of the fairy could only be replenished by energy blocks. Madame Wajia could only eat while training. After releasing magic flashes several times, she had to find a way to quickly digest the energy blocks in her body, otherwise she would not be able to eat. This process was quite hard, but fortunately, Madame Wajia did not complain and trained according to Chen Shi's requirements. Looking at Madame Wajia's data, Chen Shi thought that Madame Wajia should be able to break through the gym level soon. Afterwards, Chen Shi looked at Pakigu again. This guy had become more mature after his evolution. The daily training tasks were meticulous. The task was completed, but the others seemed to be the same, still naughty, but without making trouble. Looking at the many hardworking Pokémon, Chen Shi felt a sense of satisfaction. No matter what the future holds, at least he is extremely satisfied now. In Sinnoh, in Shirona's villa. At this time, Shirona was looking expectantly at the Pokémon egg in front of her, which was only covered with cracks on the top and bottom. Around, Pokémon such as Garchomp were also watching this scene nervously. They understood that this was a partner who would live and fight together in the future. "Come on, little guy," Shirona couldn't help but say. Mustard Orchid hadn't gone to the research institute today, and looked at the Pokémon egg on the table with a calm expression. She had experienced this kind of scene countless times and was used to it. The Pokémon egg on the table seemed to feel everyone's expectations, and the one on the top there were more and more cracks. After a while, the eggshell on the top was pushed open, and a small yellowish head with spikes on its head came out. She looked at Shirona in front of her with her small eyes and made a soft and sticky sound. Chaji, Chajidui. Shirona was very surprised, but still did not hug the little guy, but encouraged, "There are still feet, Togepi, quickly stretch out your feet." Togepi seemed to understand, and used all his strength to kick hard, and the eggshell below was kicked to pieces, and Togepi's little feet also stretched out. The surrounding Pokémon cheered, and even Lucario shouted. They were happy for this new little guy. At this time, Shirona's beautiful face was also full of joy, and she quickly took the hot towel next to her and carefully wiped Togepi's body. Then she took out the large milk can that had been prepared in advance and placed it in front of Togepi. Chajadui. Togepi looked at the milk in the big milk can in confusion, and stepped forward to smell it bravely. Then he made a sound of surprise and drank it quickly. Chajadu, ye. Shirona gently touched her head, and Togepi did not resist. As the first person he saw when he was just born, Togepi had a good impression of Shirona. At this time, Dr. Mustard Orchid smiled and said, "The child was thoughtful when he was young, and gave you such a cute little guy. But it's a pity that I still don't understand what's going on about Togepi's evolution." Shirona remembered what Chen Shi said in the letter, and asked, "Grandma, do you think there is a possibility that Togepi evolves based on intimacy?" "It evolves based on the intimacy between the trainer. When the intimacy reaches a certain standard, it can evolve." "Intimacy?" Dr. Mustard Orchid asked in surprise. "This is a very interesting guess, but it sounds unreliable." So Mustard Orchid asked in confusion, "Why do you say that? Where did you come up with this conclusion?" After a moment of silence, Shirona replied, "It was Chen Shi who proposed it. He said that when Lucario evolved, he had this conjecture." "Luca." The Lucario behind him was stunned. "Did I evolve by relying on this intimacy? Then why don't I know it myself?" Mustard Orchid continued to ask, "Then how do you explain the Lucario and Pokémon in the wild?" Hirona was speechless. "Grandma, I'm not a researcher, how do I know? This is what Chen Shi told me. But he said it very confidently, Pokémon and Lucario both evolved by relying on intimacy. But Chen Shi also said that this thing sounds incredible, but it does exist. It's just hard to prove, and he also admitted that there is no good way now." Mustard Orchid was silent for a while, not because she didn't want to believe it, but because this thing really sounded unreliable. Like the previous Onyx, it evolved by carrying a metal membrane and then communicating. This Mustard Orchid can be understood. After all, it uses props and special magnetic fields. Although it is rare, it is not difficult to understand. But this intimacy is different. It is hard to say whether such a mysterious thing exists or not. How can Pokémon rely on this to evolve? After thinking for a long time, he couldn't figure it out. Dr. Mustard Orchid simply stopped thinking about it and teased his granddaughter instead. "You believe what you said when you were a child. Girls really can't be kept when they grow up." Shirona's pretty face blushed slightly, and she said angrily, "Grandma, Chen Shi and I are just ordinary friends, not the kind of relationship you think." GZ Lan nodded gently and teased, "I understand. The boat of friendship has sailed into the sea of love. Grandma can understand." Shirona sighed softly and walked away holding the sleeping Togepi. "I won't talk to you anymore." At noon, an unexpected guest came to the farm. Chen Shi hurriedly went to greet him with a smile. "Dao, how come you have time to come to my place today?" The visitor was Daiwu. As soon as he entered the door, he excitedly gave Chen Shi a hug. "Chen Shi, our research was successful, your method is correct. Just last night, the world's first resurrected fossil elf was born. It's a fossil pterosaur." Chen Shi was surprised. He didn't expect Devon Company to have results so quickly. Sure enough, the power of the big family was hard for Chen Shi to imagine. Just relying on a general direction, the first fossil elf was resurrected so quickly. So Chen Shi also smiled and congratulated. "Then congratulations, you finally solved this problem." Dao waved his hand. "If it weren't for you, we don't know how long it would take to succeed. You don't know, after I went back, I said that I would use Mengmengju's dream energy to turn the fossil elves from virtual to real before resurrecting them. Those researchers almost thought I was crazy. Fortunately, my father fully supported me, so I was able to research it in such a short time." Dao sighed a little. He still remembers the incredible eyes of those researchers after the fossil pterosaur was resurrected. Because those researchers agreed to study the energy of Mengmengju under the pressure of the chairman, and never held hope at all. Just think that Mr. Zifuchi was playing for a while. Because this is really incredible. No one can imagine that fossil elves actually need dream energy to revive. Chen Shi did not take credit, because he felt that without his reminder, the Zifuchi family could also research it quickly. He just brought this time forward. Moreover, he only provided a general direction. The results were only due to the strength of the research team of the Zifuchi family. So Chen Shi shook his head and said, this is the strength of your family research team, which has little to do with me. Let's not talk about this for now, come and sit down. Chen Shi did not wait for Daigo to refute, took him to the living room to sit down, and then made a cup of tea for Daigo. The two old men were in the laboratory, and they didn't know what they were busy with, so he had to make tea. After Daigo sat down, he said seriously, Chen Shi, I really thank you for your news this time. This news is of great help to the company and to me. I don't know how to thank you. Chen Shi was stunned, and then reacted. Although Daigo is the son of Mu Jin and the first heir of the family. But there are many competitors for this position. There must be many excellent people in such a large family as Zifuchi. It is estimated that many people are waiting for Daigo to make a mistake and then drive him out of the position of the first heir. This time, Daigo should have secured his position with this incident. Thinking of this, Chen Shi congratulated him again. Congratulations. You don't have to think about how to thank me, just come and sit with me when you have time. We are friends, aren't we? Daigo was stunned, and his heart was slightly warm. Yes, we are friends. In fact, when Daigo proposed to use Mengmangju to revive the fossil elves, Mu Jin did not agree. But Daigo insisted on doing so, and even used the position of family heir as a guarantee. Mu Jin realized that his son was not joking, he was serious. So because he believed in his son, Mu Jin went against the crowd and arranged a large number of researchers to study the energy of Mengmangju. During that time, you can imagine how much pressure Daigo was under. But his attitude remained firm, just because he believed in his first and only friend. But the final result did not disappoint him. Last night, the first fossil pterosaur was resurrected. Daigo did not trust the wrong person. Have you developed the dream energy conversion device now? Dao shook his head and said with some regret, because it was the first time to revive the fossil elves, we didn't have much experience, which caused the previous simple energy conversion device to explode. But we have experience, and I believe we will build a better energy conversion device in the future. Chen Shi nodded slightly, agreeing with this statement. It's the first time. It's normal to have no experience. Then he turned around and asked, have you heard about the World Championship in more than 2 months? My grandfather said that the Alliance has invested a lot this time. Dao obviously heard about this a long time ago. Yes, my father also said that the Alliance has invested a lot this time. I heard that the top 16 can each pick a elf egg. Quote. Chen Shi frowned. It was just a Pokémon egg. It didn't seem to be worthy of the Alliance's gift this time. Dao saw him frowning and explained with a smile. You don't think these Pokémon eggs are ordinary Pokémon eggs, do you? Chen Shi suddenly realized that it was true. The Alliance made such a big move this time, how could they give ordinary Pokémon eggs? It was impossible to think about it. Dao continued. This batch of Pokémon eggs is amazing. The potential of the Pokémon inside is not lower than the iron dumbbell I gave you. Quote. This time Chen Shi was completely shocked. What potential does the iron dumbbell Daigo gave him have? That's a semi-champion. As long as you train it well and cooperate with some resources, it will surely become a champion. Don't look at Chen Shi's current Pokémon. None of them is lower than the semi-champion, but Lady Waji and Leafeon have evolved to their final forms, and it will be difficult to improve their potential in the future. But what is that? That's the potential of the Pokémon egg form, which is incredible. Just like Chen Shi's Swampert, Grandpa Chen didn't know how much effort he had to barely make him have the potential of a semi-champion in his initial form. But this time, the Alliance took action and each of the top 16 picked one, and from what Daigo said, the semi-champion is still the lowest. Then my grandfather is really right. The Alliance really spent a lot of money this time. If it's really like what you said, then it's not an exaggeration to say that the Alliance has taken 16 future champion Pokémon. Daigo shook his head. More than that. Quote. The top 16 can enter the Alliance treasury and pick one thing to take away. The higher the ranking, the better the things you can pick. As for what you can pick, I don't know, anyway, it must be very precious. Chen Shi was silent. It seems that Duolong and the others have to increase their training. How can we train only 8 hours a day? It must be 007. Chen Shi suddenly smiled. The bigger the reward, the stronger the opponent, which is good. I also want to see what level the geniuses in other regions are at. Dao suddenly felt like he had found a soulmate, and he thought so too. You were right, the bigger the reward, the stronger the opponent. The two smiled at each other and then tasted the tea. This tea is really good. I was in a hurry last time and couldn't bring it. This time I won't be polite to you. Chen Shi waved his hand, no problem. Then, Daiwu said, recently, Yulongdu in Kanto has caused a lot of trouble. I heard that it has become a senior investigator of the Alliance. Chen Shi was a little surprised. Is the dodo so powerful? Senior investigator of the Alliance, Chen Shi remembered that it must be a quasi-king to be able to take it. Just like Jun Shimuzi before, she is a senior investigator of the Alliance. Jun Shimuzi's wind speed dog has also reached the late stage of quasi-king. It seems that Dodo now has at least one quasi-king Pokémon, which makes Chen Shi feel a little pressured. It seems that Duolong still needs to be trained more. Chen Shi replied, I have also heard of this Yulongdu. I heard that he is from the Yulong family and has the power of dragons. He is very powerful. Daigo's eyes were also a little solemn. Yulongdu is indeed a strong opponent. Chen Shi said, there is also a Kona from the Silver Academy. I heard that he is also very powerful, not worse than us. There is also a battle goddess in Sinnoh, Karuna from the Kalos region. There is also a person called Dandy in the Galar region that has been newly included in the Alliance. I heard that he has never lost since his debut. Daigo's eyes flashed with eagerness. Being able to compete with so many geniuses on the same stage is no less attractive to Daigo than stones. Daigo can already imagine the grand occasion of the World Championship. Chen Shi said again, don't think that this is the end. There are still many hidden geniuses. Quote, for example, my grandfather asked me to take a girl out of the Sending God volcano some time ago. That girl is also very strong, and now she is traveling. Send the God volcano, Daigo exclaimed, and then hurriedly asked, from the ghost secret realm. Yes, Chen Shi nodded. Daigo shook his head and sighed, sure enough, there are too many hidden geniuses in this world. It took a world championship to blow all these people out. Chen Shi's face was a little strange, and an immature idea suddenly flashed through his mind. Daigo, can you do me a favor? Daigo said seriously, just say it, as long as I can do it. Chen Shi helped him so much, and Daigo just couldn't think of how to thank him. Now he said he wanted to ask me for help, how could he refuse? Chen Shi waved his hand, you don't have to be so serious, it's actually nothing big. Quote, it's the girl I brought out from the God-sending volcano. She has been living in the ghost secret realm and is protected too well. As for her personality, saying she is simple is a compliment. And her grandparents asked me to take good care of her and let the girl have an accurate understanding of the world. So I would like to ask you to find a few people to cheat her out of money and make her suffer. Dao looked at Chen Shi in disbelief, as if you were teasing me. Her grandparents asked you to take good care of her, and this is how you take care of her. Is it okay for me to find someone to cheat her out of money? Chen Shi also noticed Dao's weird expression and coughed awkwardly. Don't worry, the girl's parents agreed. That's fine. Dao nodded and agreed. Give me the girl's photo and address later, and I'll help you. Quote. Chen Shi suddenly smiled and apologized to Farong in his heart. Farong, don't blame brother Chen Shi for treating you like this. I'm doing this for your own good. Maybe you'll thank me when you find out later. Oh, by the way. Daigo suddenly remembered something. I came here for another thing. There will be a 4 Heavenly Kings exhibition match in 3 days, between the newly appointed Evil Heavenly King Waiyu and the Fire Heavenly King Mura. In Fuyan Town. I want to ask if you are interested, let's go over and take a look. Quote. Chen Shi thought for a moment and agreed. It's time to take his Pokémon out for a walk. It's not a good idea to train all the time, as Dragonite still has too little combat experience. And Chen Shi also wants to go to Meteor Falls to see if he can get a few Mega Evolution stones. Besides, isn't there a stone-digging maniac in front of him? Trick Daigo over there, maybe there will be some unexpected gains. Thinking of this, Chen Shi said, let's go and see. That's fine. I just happen to want to go see Meteor Falls. I've also been very interested in stones recently. I heard that meteorites often fall there. I want to go see if there are any nice stones. When it comes to stones, Daigo gets excited and immediately takes the bait. Really, let's go digging together. I just happen to have nothing to do recently. Now the company is busy with the resurrection of fossils. I finally have a vacation. Going to Meteor Falls to dig stones is perfect. Chen Shi was so happy. He never thought that Daigo would agree so easily. I thought it would take a lot of effort. But it's okay this way. I also told Daigo that I'm interested in some stones recently, and I also laid the groundwork for super evolution. When I work with Daigo, it won't seem abrupt. No problem. How about going today? I'll go get my Pokémon back, and then tell my grandparents. That's great. Daigo agreed immediately. Daigo always showed special enthusiasm for digging stones. Then you wait here, I'll be back soon. Daigo nodded slightly. You go. Chen Shi didn't waste any words and ran directly to the back mountain. It just so happened that I hadn't seen Leafeon and Swampert for a long time, so I took them out to play this time. Soon, Chen Shi came to the back mountain and found Duolong first. Duolong Chi, I'll take you out for some experience, what do you think? Are you going? Duolong was still wondering what Xiaoxi had come for, but he didn't expect that he would take him out for some experience. This is really great. Chia. Duolong immediately had fun happily, surrounding Chen Shi and rubbing his head against him. Okay. Chen Shi turned to Dragonite and said, Sister Long, I'll take Dragonite out for some training. He has too little combat experience. Dragonite nodded slightly. Dragonite did have too little combat experience, which would be detrimental to his development in the long run. By the way, Sister Long, do you know where Lizard King and Swampert are? Lyrian thought about it and roared towards the sky. Chen Shi knew that this was to notify other Pokémon here to come over. After a while, Lizard King suddenly appeared here. Seeing that there was no situation around, Lizard King looked at Chen Shi in confusion. Chen Shi said, Lizard King, I want to take Leafeon out for some training, otherwise training alone is useless. Lizard King suddenly realized and left again in a few jumps. He should have gone to bring Leafeon back. The next moment, Swampert and his family of 3 also came here. Chen Shi immediately made his intention clear to them. Swampert and Emperor Nabo had no objection, so they left Swampert behind and left. Le Sui. Swampert walked to Chen Shi, scratched his head, and smiled innocently. Chen Shi took a look at Swampert's data and was shocked. This big guy is already level 55. It seems that Swampert's mother has trained him a lot. Booey. Just then, Leafeon's cry sounded. Chen Shi looked over in surprise, only to see a Leafeon running quickly and then jumping directly into Chen Shi's arms. Leafeon, long time no see. Booey. Leafeon was also very happy, rubbing Chen Shi's chin affectionately. Soon, Chen Shi returned home and found his parents in the laboratory. Grandpa and Grandma, there will be a king show in Fuyan Town in 2 days, I plan to go and see it. By the way, go to Meteor Falls for some training, I don't know how long I will be there. Come to tell you. Grandpa Chen responded and continued to make his own potion. Grandma Chen was a little worried. Little boy, why don't you bring Garchomp? The Pokémon in the depths of Meteor Falls are not weak, you have to be careful. Chen Shi waved his hand. No, Grandma, I won't go deep, so I won't bring Garchomp. Don't worry, I know what I do. Okay then. Seeing her grandson refuse, Grandma Chen didn't say much and continued to study the fairy energy cube. After packing up, Chen Shi took the Pokémon trained in the backyard with him. Charmander and Metallica were looking forward to going out for training, and Pokémon was fine, anyway, she would go wherever Chen Shi went. However, Madame Wajia was a little worried, she was afraid that something would happen if no one took care of her garden. Chen Shi had to find Gardevoir at home again and asked her to help take care of the garden, and Madame Wajia was relieved. Then, Chen Shi and Daigo were embarrassed after going out. It seemed that he didn't have a flying Pokémon. He couldn't ride Dragonite now, but Metallica could, but it was not strong enough and couldn't fly fast. Fortunately, Daigo saw Chen Shi's embarrassment and invited him to ride Armorbird together. Fortunately, the back of Armorbird was not small, so it didn't seem crowded for 2 people to ride. Chen Shi, should we go to Fuyan Town or go directly to Meteor Falls? Chen Shi immediately replied. It's meaningless to go to Fuyan Town now, let's go directly to Meteor Falls to dig stones. Daigo had no objection to this, and directly commanded Armorbird to fly towards Meteor Falls. Chen Shi was a little puzzled. Don't you prepare some supplies or something? When I came out, I planned not to go back in a short time. Everything is in my backpack, don't worry. Chen Shi's mouth twitched. This is already prepared. It's not that Daigo also plans to go to Meteor Falls without telling me, right? More than an hour later, the two stood at the entrance of Meteor Falls. Daigo was already excited. Let's go in. The two went directly into Meteor Falls. In the outermost layer, there are still many people who come here to play. Because not far after entering, you can see a huge waterfall falling. This is a great wonder of Meteor Falls, and many people come to visit. Looking at the waterfall in front of him, Chen Shi sighed. I heard that this waterfall was formed by the fall of a meteorite. I don't know how it was formed specifically. It's really spectacular. After seeing the waterfall, Chen Shi couldn't help but think of an ancient poem from his previous life. The waterfall falls straight down 3,000 feet, and it seems that the Milky Way falls from the sky. It's really appropriate. Daigo didn't want to care about this. His mind was full of stones. After just a quick glance, he urged, let's go quickly, don't worry about the waterfall. Chen Shi shook his head helplessly and had to follow Daigo into the depths of Meteor Falls. The further you go in, the fewer people there are. Occasionally, you will encounter a few wild Pokémon, but Daigo and Chen Shi did not provoke them and left far away. After reaching the depths of Meteor Falls, Chen Shi finally understood what professionalism meant. Daigo took out a bunch of equipment, such as protective clothing, helmets, and a detector. Then he tested all the way, and from time to time he released a 3-meter-tall Boscadora to dig a hole. Unfortunately, after Daigo's operation, the detection instrument did not respond, and Chen Shi couldn't bear it anymore. Daigo, can you do this? If not, I'll do it. Don't worry. My equipment is very accurate and can accurately detect various minerals. Daigo said without looking back. Chen Shi curled his lips. I just think yours doesn't work. Come, let me show you mine. Dao was a little dissatisfied. This is the latest mineral detector of Daewoo Company. How could it not work? But when Dao turned around and wanted to see what instrument Chen Shi could take out, he was dumbfounded. Chen Shi took out a luxury ball and released a Pokégoo. Come on, Professor Bo, we are looking for that special stone. Just point us to a location. Choco, don't talk about Dao. Pokégoo himself was a little dumbfounded. If you want to find a stone, just find a stone. It's useless to find me. I don't know how to find a stone. Chen Shi said confidently. Just point to one. Choco. Seeing the trainer's confident look, Pokémon didn't care and pointed randomly with his eyes closed. Quick, Daigo, bring your instrument here to test it. Daigo was full of black lines. Are you serious? If Pokémon is useful, what do I need my instrument for? But Daigo still took the instrument to that position and prepared to test it. Just think of it as giving a friend a face, it's not a big deal anyway. But when he pointed the instrument at the position pointed by Pokémon, the detector suddenly issued a fierce alarm. Daigo was really stupid this time. How could this work? Chen Shi was also a little surprised. Although Professor Bo was sometimes very lucky, this thing was sometimes effective and sometimes not. Chen Shi originally let her out to adjust the atmosphere, but he never thought it would really work. He immediately praised, Professor Bo, you did a great job. Quote. Choco. Pokojigoo waved her hand indifferently, indicating that she did nothing. Anyway, that's what she thought. It's just a random finger with eyes closed. What's the big deal? Daigo released Boscadora. Please dig here. Hey, Pokojigoo started digging without any nonsense. Soon, Boscadora seemed to have found something, and handed a stone to Daigo with its big claws. Daigo quickly put on gloves and observed it carefully. Chen Shi also glanced at it and said, it's just a piece of top-grade moonstone. Don't look at it, let's look for it somewhere else. Daigo also confirmed that this is indeed a piece of moonstone with a very high concentration, reaching the top grade. Daigo glanced at Pokojigoo, and then at the detector in his hand. Well, this thing is really not good. From then until the evening, Daigo was digging stones tirelessly. Chen Shi had no interest in this at first. The reason he came here was just to see if Daigo could dig up the Mega Evolution Stone. Because Mega Evolution flourished in Kalos, but many people in the previous life said that Hoenn was the origin of Mega Evolution. As for why they said that, Chen-Shi didn't know. But in the previous life, in the animation, I did see the Hoenn Three Fools and the Flare team fighting for the Energy Stone. There is a saying that the Energy Stone may be the origin of Mega Evolution. As for whether it is true, Chen-Shi doesn't know. But there are indeed many Mega Evolution Stones in the Hoenn area. Chen-Shi thinks that if there is a place with the most Mega Evolution Stones in Hoenn, it can only be Meteor Falls. But after Daigo dug out several beautiful but useless stones, Chen-Shi lost interest. He took his Pokémon to fight everywhere. Anyway, as long as Daigo dug out any stone, he would be excited to bring it to him to see. So let Daigo work harder. At worst, he can compensate Daigo later. At night, the two of them rested directly in the cave dug by Boscadora. After all the Pokémon had eaten their food, Chen-Shi asked Daigo about his harvest today. Daigo immediately became excited and took out 7 or 8 stones for Chen-Shi to see. There are so many stones in this Meteor Falls. I may not have dug out so many stones in half a month before. Look at this one. It's simply a perfect masterpiece from heaven. Daigo excitedly introduced the various stones dug today. He also took out a purple crystal stone and showed it to Chen-Shi. However, Chen-Shi just glanced at it briefly and stopped paying attention. Because it was useless. Instead, his eyes stayed on a stone with silver and dark orange colors. Boscadora Mega Evolution Stone. It seems to be a stone that can unlock Boscadora's hidden potential. Closing square bracket. Where did you find this stone? Dao was stunned, looked in the direction Chen-Shi pointed, and then thought about it carefully. This one was picked up by Boscadora. I have a lot of this kind at home. It's an unexpected gain. Look at this one of mine. Then, Dao took out another black stone, which actually emitted a green light under the illumination of the flashlight. Chen-Shi's mouth twitched. You don't care about the most important one at all, right? And what do you mean there are still a lot at home? I seriously suspect you are showing off to me. But he said, I am actually quite interested in that stone. If you dig it up, let me take a look. Okay. Dao didn't think much about it. This kind of stone is not very beautiful, and there are a lot of them at home. He doesn't care at all. If you are really interested in this kind of stone, come to my house and I will show you. Chen-Shi thought about it and said, let's talk about it later when we have a chance. Let's continue looking tomorrow. If there are such stones, please help me collect them. Dao would naturally not refuse. He always felt that it was not because there were so many stones in Meteor Falls that he could get so many harvests today. Instead, he felt that Chen-Shi was more or less mysterious, and he was very lucky to be with him. So Daiwu agreed to Chen-Shi's request without thinking. If you can get this kind of harvest every day, what's the point of watching the king's show? Isn't it nice to dig stones? Seeing Daiwu agreed, Chen-Shi smiled. As for the Boscadora Evolution Stone, Chen-Shi didn't shamelessly ask for it. Anyway, he didn't need it, so he gave it to Daiwu. And the fact that he could dig up the Super Evolution Stone here means that Chen-Shi's guess is correct. There must be a lot of Mega Evolution Stones hidden in Meteor Falls, which are all priceless treasures in the future. After all, this thing is sometimes more valuable than the Pokémon itself. For example, the Mega Evolution Stone of Banjir is on his body. After the Mega Evolution is released in the future, its value may be more precious than a young Banjira's. Because quasi-gods are indeed rare and precious, but they can't be less than Mega Evolution Stones. In this world, there may be only a few Mega Evolution Stones of quasi-gods. For those who need it, it is absolutely worthwhile to exchange a quasi-god for a quasi-god Mega Evolution Stone. And the reason why Chen-Shi wanted to find Mega Evolution Stones was that he planned to give them to others in the future, or to exchange them for various resources. In his current team, the only Pokémon that can Mega Evolve is the future Metagross, which is not available yet, and Swampert and Charizard are already available. But the Mega Evolution Stone of Metagross is not as easy to find. Chen-Shi is mentally prepared for this, so he can only look for it slowly. Dao, don't be silly, go to bed quickly, and get up early to work tomorrow. Let the giant Swampert guard the night tonight. Hearing this, Daiwu reluctantly put down the stone in his hand and began to look forward to tomorrow. Okay, I must do a big job tomorrow. At the same time, a guest also came to the Chen family's farm. When he learned that Chen Shi was not at home and went to watch the King of Kings performance, the guest left in a hurry again. The two old men looked a little strange, looked at each other, and smiled knowingly. The next day, Daigo woke up Chen Shi, who was sleeping soundly with excitement. Don't sleep, get up quickly, let's go dig stones. Chen Shi never thought that someone would arrange a wake-up service for him even though he was out. But this is much gentler than Gengar, at least it doesn't use tongue licking, and it doesn't feel numb. Helplessly, Chen Shi had to get up and wash, then release his Pokémon and prepare energy cubes for them. Choco. But at this time, Paco was unhappy. I'm not big, why should I be put in the Pokeball to rest? Chen Shi directly made 3 consecutive guarantees, saying that she must let her sleep outside tonight. Paco was satisfied and picked up a fairy energy cube and started eating it. Suddenly, Chen Shi's eyes shifted to Duolong. The latter kept staring at one place in a daze and didn't even eat the energy cube. Chen Shi asked in confusion, "What's wrong, Duolong? Why don't you eat?" Chia. Duolong came back to his senses and pointed at the place he was looking at. Chen Shi was a little surprised. You said there is something there that makes you feel sad. Chia. Duolong nodded, indicating that it was like that. He himself didn't know what was going on, he had this feeling since he came out. He felt that something was attracting him, and he didn't know why, but he suddenly felt sad and a little irritated. Chen Shi thought about it and said, "Let's eat first, and we'll know after we eat." Chia. Hearing this, Duolong nodded, picked up the energy cube and started eating. Xiaoxi was right, we'll know after we go and see. Dao said anxiously at this time, I'll go first, just come find me when you're done. It's at the place where I was yesterday, I plan to go there today. After the voice fell, Dao ran out with his equipment. Chen Shi's mouth twitched. Do we have to be so anxious? Forget it, we don't understand the thoughts of these stone fanatics. Chia. It's inside. Duolongqi brought Chen Shi to a stone wall. It was here that Duolongqi had that strange feeling. Chen Shi released the giant Swampert. Swampert, please go dig here. Be careful. LTSS. The giant Swampert smiled foolishly, ran to the stone wall, and then attached the ground energy to the stone wall. The stone wall immediately became soft, and the giant Swampert dug a hole with a big wave of his hand. When Chen Shi didn't know how far he dug inside, he was a little impatient. Duolongqi suddenly became excited and flew over to hug a fallen stone. Chia. Duolongqi rubbed the stone, and his eyes showed deep sadness. Even the little Duolong on Duolongqi's head was the same. Chen Shi walked forward and looked at the stone as big as a head in confusion, not understanding why Duolong showed such an expression. Duolongqi, is there anything special about this stone? Duolongqi nodded, carefully condensed the smallest dragon wave in his mouth, and then bombarded the stone continuously. Seeing Duolong's cautious look, Chen Shi felt a little funny, but did not make a sound to disturb Duolong. Soon, the stone as big as a head was cleaned by Duolong into a palm-sized fossil with triangular patterns. This shape is exactly the same as Duolong Messiah's head. Chen Shi was shocked and quickly scanned the fossil with the panel. Duolong Messiah fossil. There are fossils of Duolong Messiah here. Chen Shi really didn't understand. You said there are fossils of baby dragon and mini dragon here, and he thought it was normal. But how can this fossil of Duolong Messiah be found in Meteor Falls? After hearing Xiaoxi's words, Duolongqi finally understood why he was sad. It turned out to be because of the death of his own kind. Kia. Duolongqi called out, and the little Duolong on his head flew down and lay on Chen Shi's head. Then Duolongqi put the fossil on his head, as if this would allow his long-dead fellows to enjoy the feeling of lying on the head of most dragons again. The Duolong tribe is very special. They have an unimaginable obsession with taking care of their own cubs. If Duolongqi doesn't have a little Duolong on his head, Duolongqi will be upset. Over time, Duolongqi will become more and more irritable, and even out of control. You can imagine how obsessed they are with their own cubs. Now that a fossil of Duolong Messiah has been dug up, even Chen Shi can feel Duolongqi's sadness. Chen Shi stepped forward and comforted him. Don't worry, Duolongqi. Now the fossil resurrection technology it has been studied, and this fossil can be resurrected. Quote. Then Doran Messiah can be revived. Chia. Durangchi looked at Chen Shi with surprise. This news was too important for him. Originally, Durangchi planned to bury this fossil so that his people could rest in peace, but he didn't expect Chen Shi to tell him that Doran Messiah could be resurrected. How could he not be surprised? Chen Shi smiled and said, "It's the man who came with me. His family is engaged in fossil resurrection. We will go to his house after a while and revive Doran Messiah." Quote. Chia. Dronio nodded vigorously, and then handed the fossil to Chen Shi. A trainer will not lie to a dragon. If he says he can revive, then he will definitely revive. Little Dragonio was also happy, and he flashed back to Dragonio's head and lay down. Swampert on the side scratched his head, not understanding what was going on. "Are you still digging?" Chen Shi looked at the fossil and took out a box to put it away. "If Dragonio Messiah can be resurrected, then give it to Farong to cultivate. Anyway, I don't need it. Dragonio can split when it evolves, and I am not interested in cultivating a Dragonio. It's just right to give him to Farong. Didn't that girl also say that she wanted to find a Dragonio? Brother Chen Shi will give it to you. Just consider it as compensation for letting Daigo punish you. When I was at home, Chen Shi gave the photos and other things to Daigo, and Daigo seemed to have arranged it. I don't know how Farong is now. Is she very happy?" After that, Chen Shi went to find Daigo. Seeing that Daigo was addicted to digging stones, Chen Shi took Pokémon to fight wild Pokémon. Metal, Bullet Punch, Beta. Metal didn't hesitate to hear that and hit a Zubat with a bullet punch. Zubat screamed in pain. Metal, another bullet punch. Beta. Metal used the same trick again and continued to hit Zubat with a bullet punch, making it lose its ability to fight. Great job, Metal. Beta. Faced with the trainer's praise, Metal didn't think it was a big deal, it was just because the opponent was too weak. Kano. At this time, Charmander pulled Chen Shi's hand, indicating that he also wanted to fight. Chen Shi smiled and said, "I will find an opponent for you, don't worry." Kano. Charmander felt relieved after hearing this, and continued to follow Chen Shi with Metal Monster to look for wild Pokémon. Time passed little by little, and Chen Shi took his Pokémon everywhere to look for wild Pokémon. During this period, Charmander and Metal Monster performed very well in the battle. They played against intermediate and advanced Pokémon. Basically, they never lost a game. It was almost noon, and Chen Shi found Daigo. "Daigo, it's noon, it's time to eat, don't dig." Hearing this, Daigo put down the instrument in his hand, wiped the sweat from his forehead, walked to Chen Shi and sat down. Chen Shi took out various portable foods and put them on the ground, and the two sat down and ate. "How is it? Did you get anything this morning?" Daigo chewed on the biscuits, and without nonsense, he took out 2 stones directly. One is the advanced moon stone. As for the other one, it turned out to be the Mega Evolution Stone of Big Mouth Baby. Chen Shi didn't know whether he was sighing at the large number of Meteor Falls evolution stones or at Daigo's good luck. Although the racial value of Garo is not high, only 380, it is a steel and fairy Pokémon with excellent resistance. It has only 2 weaknesses, fire and ground, and 2 immunities, 1 quadruple resistance, and 8 double resistance. After the Mega Evolution, Garo will become a strongman no matter what its characteristics were before the Mega Evolution. As for the characteristic of strongman, Chen Shi can only say that those who understand it understand it. When using physical moves with non-fixed damage, its move power will be doubled, which is extremely powerful. This characteristic is only available to 3 Pokémon, namely Marill, Mega Garo, and Rabbit. Among them, Marill with the strongman characteristic is even called the Dragon Slayer. You can imagine how powerful this characteristic is. Then, Chen Shi thought for a while and asked, "Daigo, do you have any idea to capture a mouth? I see you like steel Pokémon very much. I think mouth is pretty good." Daigo pondered for a while and nodded in agreement. If it is a mouth with forced characteristics, it is really good. Chen Shi said, "You can consider capturing a mouth, it is really good." This is not to fool Daigo. After all, Super Mouth is really powerful, and it is a steel and fairy Pokémon. It can completely make up for the shortcomings of Daigo's team. "I will consider it." Seeing Chen Shi's serious words, Daigo didn't know what happened, and he agreed. In fact, mouth was not originally within Daigo's consideration. After all, mouth with forced characteristics can only be said to be good, and it does not meet his standard for capturing Pokémon. Chen Shi didn't care what Daigo thought, anyway, he reminded him. As for whether Daigo will listen or not, that's up to him. Just as the two were chatting, the wall of the passage that Daigo dug suddenly began to stir, and soil kept falling. This confused the two. What is this? It doesn't look like a cave collapse. Just as the two were stunned, a big hole suddenly appeared on the wall, and someone was talking behind them. Yoshino, where do you think this meteorite is? For so many days, we have found a lot of strange stones, but we haven't found a meteorite. Don't complain, hurry up and find it. Lord Huoshu has given a death order. We must find the meteorite. I heard that Lord Huoshu found 5 treasure dragons from somewhere. Whoever finds the meteorite will be rewarded with one. That's a treasure dragon, a quasi-god Pokémon. If we can have one, maybe we can become cadres in the future. Another person said loudly in surprise, Yoshino, are you serious? If you find a meteorite, you will be rewarded with a treasure dragon. That can't be false, hurry up and dig. Quote, just as the passage was completely dug, Chen Shi and Daigo finally saw 2 people wearing red clothes with special patterns on them. Chen Shi reacted immediately and released Dragonite and Swampert. Catch them both, don't let them run away. Chia. Soon, Dragonite and Swampert didn't hesitate and rushed directly to the 2 members of the Magma team. The 2 members of the Magma team came to their senses and hurriedly wanted to take out the Pokeballs and summon their Pokémon. Unfortunately, it was too late. One of them was whipped away by Dragonite's tail, and the other was pinched by Swampert's throat. Chen Shi immediately took away their Pokeballs and locked them. Yoshino, who was pinched by Swampert's throat, was still unconvinced and shouted. Little ghost, do you know who I am? Dare to have a fair fight with me? Chen Shi smiled and said, I know, I don't dare. Quote. You. As soon as these words came out, Yoshino was blocked from saying anything. He was a little confused. These 2 people were obviously from the Alliance. Don't they like fair duels the most? Yoshino had met the Alliance several times before. Every time he said fair duels, the other party would stupidly put away their Pokémon. Why doesn't this trick work now? Daigo walked up and asked puzzledly, Chen Shi, who are they? Chen Shi was a little surprised. This is the lava team that appeared recently, don't you know them? Daigo slapped his forehead, it seemed to be true. I heard from my father that this organization has made a lot of noise recently, so you have to be careful if you meet them. Then, Daigo looked at Yoshino with a bad look. Chen Shi didn't waste any words and asked directly, just be direct. Tell me what you are doing here, what is your purpose, how many people are here, and what are their strengths? Quote. Yoshino sneered, kid, are you still asleep? Quote. Why should I tell you? Yoshino is not afraid of these people. At worst, he will be sent to the police station. Anyway, someone will release him in the end. Okay, then you can watch. Chen Shi released Yi Yibu directly and said, Yi Yibu, do you see the man lying over there? Take off his feet and let this stubborn gentleman appreciate them. Yi Yibu pouted, and the flying leaf knife slashed out at a high speed, and the feet of the man lying on the ground were cut off. Ah, my feet, my feet. Quote, he woke up suddenly, veins popped on his forehead, and he screamed heartbreakingly. He clutched his pants tightly with both hands, and his knuckles turned pale because of excessive force. The screams echoed in the underground cave, making people shudder. Daigo and Yoshino swallowed their saliva. Neither of them expected Chen Shi to be so cruel. He just took it off. Chen Shi ignored the man on the ground and said with a smile. Do you want to appreciate your feet too? Or other parts? I can help you take it off. Yoshino suddenly felt a chill rushing to his head. Aren't you afraid of the League's punishment for this? You should send me to jail. Chen Shi didn't want to waste time talking to him. Leaf Eevee, get ready. I'll count to 3. If this person doesn't say anything, you can also give him a flying leaf knife. Quote. Booyah. Yabe yawned lazily, indicating that he understood. No, I'll tell you. Yoshino shouted in horror. We are here to find a meteorite, and I don't know what it is used for. The leader of this team is Huoshu Kadri, whose strength has reached the quasi-king level, and there are 3 senior team members and more than 10 intermediate team members. The base is in a cave, not far from here, but Lord Huoshu is in charge there. I can draw a simple map for you. Chen Shi nodded with satisfaction. Look, wouldn't it be better if it was like this earlier? Look at what you have done to your companion. Yoshino glanced at his companion who fainted in pain on the other side, and cold sweat kept coming out of his forehead. This kid doesn't look like a direct descendant of the Alliance at all, but like a member of an underground organization. Unbelievably cruel. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.